for the masses.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
If the game is rigged, change the game. Game changer.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
This is Fade to Black with your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
I need your help to get to the year 1985.
You're listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Good evening. Fade to Black. Bespoke Radio. For the masses. Yeah. How you doing? Today's Wednesday, April 3rd, 2019. 93 days into the new year, just 272 days left. We are live from a bunker somewhere in the middle of beautiful downtown Burbank, California. And I would like to welcome everybody listening all around the world, all across the United States. Hither and thither, to and fro, back and forth, up and down, east and west, north and south, far and near. This is Fade to Black for KJCR, the Game Changer Network, and KGRA, the Planet. I am your host, Jimmy Church. What is cracking? How you doing? How you doing? Tonight's going to be one of those shows. Heather Lynn is here. That's Dr. Heather Lynn. She's got a new book out, and it's a page-turner. It's called Evil Archaeology, Demons, Possessions, and Sinister Relics. There it is right there. Great cover. We've got all the links up to go and get the book. You can go over to jimmychurchradio.com, go to drheatherlynn.com, and there it is, Amazon. Amazing book. This is what crazy dreams when you go to bed are made of right here, this book right here. I was just talking to her about my mind. You start reading this and your mind just goes there. Just goes there. It's a great book. It's a great book. So Dr. Lynn is here. Evil Archaeology. All right. That is the discussion tonight. And tomorrow night is another Fader night with open lines all night long. And that means your conversations, your contact, UFOs, time travel, evil archaeology, right? All of that stuff. Lost history, parallel worlds, life after death, ghosts, the supernatural, the paranormal. Everything goes down on Thursday night, on Fader night. So that'll be tomorrow. And what a great week we've had this week. Think about it. Alex Mistretta on Monday night, breaking it down. Last night, Billy Carson. Tonight, Dr. Heather Lynn. Phew. Man, I just love this gig. You can follow me right now on Twitter at JChurchRadio. That's the simple thing to do. And come over and hang out with everybody and enjoy the conversation. And you can do that using the hashtag F2B. That's the number 2B, F2B, which is our designated sandbox. You named it the sandbox. We also have 2 chat rooms, one on Spreaker, one over at KGRA The Planet. If you prefer the chat room atmosphere, we've got 2 of those for you. And if you have any questions or comments, you can post those up there for either me or Dr. Lynn at hashtag F2BQ. Okay? All right. Oh, man, what a show. I cannot wait for this tonight. You know, I'm gonna get back to tonight's show here in just a bit. But I've got to get to this breaking news. First up tonight, a group of ex-spooks, ex-spies, are suing the Defense Department and spy agencies for the right to publish books on their careers. And they're trying to do it without being subjected to arbitrary censorship, claiming that the pre-publication preview system inflicted on all employees with security clearances is overly broad and unconstitutional, amounting to a far-reaching system of prior restraint. And this is according to the American Civil Liberties Union and the Knight First Amendment Institute, who are suing the Central Intelligence Agency, the National Security Agency, the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, and the Defense Department on behalf of 5 former federal employees who argue that the confusing system has hurt them professionally. Yep. And if that wasn't enough CIA news for you today, I've got more. And I anticipate interference with tonight's show because of my blabbermouth when it comes to the CIA or the NSA. You know, I'm being flagged right now, right? I mean, that's all it takes. That's all it takes. I leave all the other trigger words out, you know, the ones that would really, cause a breach of the bunker elevator and then them somehow getting in here. Yeah, think about that. All right. Because it was announced today that the CIA is preparing to significantly increase its reliance on cloud computing services, with plans to solicit tens of billions of dollars of work divided among multiple tech companies. Now, if that didn't cause you to pucker, right? The program would also dramatically expand the federal market for technology and give a chance for other companies to compete with Amazon. Listen to this. Potential contenders are Microsoft, IBM, and Oracle, which are all trying to catch up to Amazon and selling cloud services to the intelligence community. Yeah. Amazon already has a $600 million contract with the CIA, and Oracle has gone to court to challenge a Defense Department winner-take-all solicitation that says it favors Amazon. Now, about 5 years ago, and then 4, and then 3, Amazon announced, we all knew that Amazon itself, the book division, right, Amazon, wasn't making any money. And everybody wondered, how does that work? You're so big, you dominate everything, but you're not making any money. And their reports, their yearly reports and all of their filings were saying, you know what, we're just not making any money here. Let me tell you where Amazon has invested, where the money is and where they are making it. Amazon owns the cloud computing world. They own it. Google, little sliver. Microsoft, little slivers. Amazon owns it. And all the companies out there that offer cloud computing services, they turn around and sublease from Amazon. That it's an Amazon world. And when I say that, I'm not joking. They control it. They absolutely do. And that is where their profit comes from. And they make ginormous dollars. The amount of servers and cloud hard drives that are out there storing your information, and the Defense Department and the CIA and the NSA, Amazon. Think about that. And that announcement was today, and the CIA wants to make these investments, and they want to get everybody in on it. Think about that for a second. Pretty crazy. All right, also announced today, officials have dubbed Monday's bridge collapse in Tennessee a freak accident. That's right. But bridges across the United States are deteriorating. And a new report released today estimates it will take more than 80 years, 87 to be exact, to fix all of them. That's because more than 47,000 bridges in the United States are in crucial need of repairs. And this is according to the American Road and Transportation Builders Association, otherwise known as ARTBA. Yeah. You know, this is what I find strange. When the federal, I think it was called the Federal Highways Act, something close to it, when they decided that they were going to build a highway system that would interconnect all the main cities in the United States, coast to coast, north to south, east to west, that everything was going to be connected and they were going to do it in a few years. And it was the most enormous construction project and infrastructure project ever, right? But we did it. We did it. You know, and how did we get to the point now where they're talking about 87 years? And we can spend money and blow money all over the place and just wasted money. And we've got bridges collapsing in the United States. You know, I would say it started about 10 years ago and it went on. It hasn't happened, at least publicly, probably the last 5 years. But here in Los Angeles, we had sewer lines blowing up all over the city. It was all streets flooded. This happened. You know, it was just absolutely crazy. And our infrastructure here in L.A., trust me, you know, they show you pictures of the beaches on postcards. But what's really going on here in Los Angeles, we have got to, I don't care what city you pick, we have got the worst roads and sewage system anywhere in the country is here in Los Angeles. And they just can't, you know, they built it cheaply back then, and now we're paying the price. I don't get it, how we can live in this country and have these issues. But nonetheless, you know what you're not going to have issues with? The Surfer music streaming app, and you need to download it right now. That's right, S-U-R-F-R, Surfer, SURFR.FM. Go and download it. It is completely free. That's all you got to do. There's no registration. There's no privacy. There's no giving up your information. You're never going to get an email. Nothing. All you do is download it and start enjoying all of your favorite music. And you can do it right now. It's super easy, super fun. All you have to do is click on the banners over at jimmychurchradio.com. All right? SURFR.FM. Surfer. Our next event is coming up. It is coming up next month. I cannot believe it. It is Contact in the Desert, May 31st through June 3rd in Indian Wells, Palm Springs, California. That's right, at the Renaissance Indian Wells Resort and Spa. Tickets and info are at contactinthedesert.com. Full weekend of events. You know everything that's going on. Go and check out the full conference schedule, and we'll see everybody there. You know, we're going to have a booth. We're going to broadcast live. I'm going to host a panel. I'm hosting the awards dinner on Saturday. So we're going to be hanging out, and, of course, there's going to be a secret party or two. There's going to be a night watch or two. Okay? All right? So go and get your tickets now. contactinthedesert.com. Our 2019 Soul Tech Conference is coming up, and it is over the July 4th weekend at the lovely Sunrise Ranch in Loveland, Colorado. Go to soultechgathering.com. We've also got Soul Tech Official over on Facebook. You can go and check that out, too, as well. When you go to soultechgathering.com, we have bios, all of the speakers, food, lodging, all of your questions are answered, full conference schedule, and all of the activities that we have planned over that weekend of July 4th. It's going to be great. And I still think, I don't want to let this thought go, I think we should have a cook-off. A cook-off. Yeah, I think we should have a cook-off. So somebody, Stacy, Somebody there in Boulder, Stacy, has got to bring a grill. So I'm just saying, you bring the grill, I'll bring the talent. And we've got a lot of fader knots out there that don't want to show off their skills. So I think we should have a cook-off at Soul Tech. All right. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast. It's just $2 per month. We have over 1,000 archive shows right there. $2 per month. Click on the podcast banner at jimmychurchradio.com. You can also become a fader knot. That's right, over in our membership section on the site. Get those autographed shirts and hats and downloadable commercial-free archives, MP3s. Play it wherever you want. You get a private email to me. Get all of that stuff. Become a fader knot today over in our membership section at jimmychurchradio.com. Happy birthday today to Eddie Murphy. Eddie Murphy today is 57. Coming to America. That's all I got to say. I'm not Vampire in Brooklyn. I didn't go there. What was the cop movie with Nick Nolte? What was 48 Hours? What was that called? It was pretty. Whoa. Sounded like a World War I biplane. That's my imagination. Eddie Murphy today is a chili cook-off. That's not a bad idea. But on a grill, see, that's going to take all day. But a chili cook-off, okay, we could maybe Trading Places. Yeah, Trading Places is right there. Yeah, I'm with you on that. Eddie Murphy, 57, and there's a rumor going around in production is the sequel to Coming to America. Yep, part 2. Yep, coming back. Yeah, I think that's what it's called, Coming Back to America. Eddie Murphy's 57 today. Alec Baldwin is 60. And that's a tough call with Alec because I like him a lot. But it's really strange. For me, every time I think about him, I think about Glenn Ross, the steak knives. That's right. Alec Baldwin today is 60. And what I wanted to do, and I just blew past it. I wanted to light up Twitter with, what will Rita be making stuffed chicken pasta? Rita's not allowed in the cook-off. No, that's stacking the deck. That's stacking the deck. Okay, what was I? The best Beetlejuice. Alec Baldwin and Beetlejuice. I was thinking Eddie Murphy. Yeah, Alec Baldwin and Beetlejuice. That was pretty good. Your best line. What is the best line from Coming to America? I want to see how good you guys are. What's your best line? What is the best line in Coming to America? Don't worry about it. It's Twitter. You can you can post it. Our dead guy's birthday today is Marlon Brando, 1924 to 2004. Died at the age of 80. One of the greatest actors in history. There's no question about that because you've got Don Vito in The Godfather, Terry Malloy in On the Waterfront, and, of course, Colonel Kurtz in Apocalypse Now, and that's pretty much all you got to say. Happy birthday, Marlon Brando. He's pretty good in The Freshman, too, by the way. Yeah, that boy is good. That's pretty good. Tri-scale. He's real good. Yeah. That's a good line right there. All right. Where am I at? On this day in history, 1996, the Unabomber is arrested. At a small wilderness cabin near Lincoln, Montana, Theodore John Kaczynski is arrested by FBI agents on this day in 1996. Fader fact. Okay. Murph, that's where I was going. Murph, you've got my respect. Murph, when are we going to hang out? You got my respect. Drinks are on me the next time I see you, Murph, because that's where I was going. All right, fader fact. 1 in 3 divorce filings in the United States include the word what? Okay, so let's see. Let's light up Twitter right now. Let me see who can guess. The first person to get this up in Twitter, Faded Black coffee mug. I'll do it right now. Okay? You ready? 1 in 3 divorce filings in the United States include the word blank. 1 in 3 divorce filings include the word what? That's everyone. Okay. All right. Nope. That's a good guess there, Madeline. That's also a pretty good idea. I see where you go. Oh, Kat. Nathaniel is first at the same time they popped in together. You guys are absolutely right. Nathaniel, Facebook. That's right. Cat Vocals, Facebook. That came in at the same time. You guys both got it. Inconceivable. You guys are funny. Yeah, Facebook. 1 in 3 divorce filings today include the word Facebook. And there's a reason for it, by the way, and I read into this today. Facebook is permanent. You can delete all you want. There's ways to go, and all divorce attorneys on both sides go to Facebook and dig. They dig. And that's it, and that's their evidence. Yeah, you would think it would almost be the opposite of that, like somebody is accusing, and there is that too as well, right? Somebody saw something on Facebook, okay? But it's in the divorce filings because those attorneys go and dig into your social networking history. 1 in 3 divorce filings include the word Facebook. Tonight, Dr. Heather Lynn, she's back with us, and we're going to be discussing her new book, Evil, Archaeology. There it is right there, holding it up to the camera. What do you think of that cover? The cover's amazing. All right, so we're going to discuss this, demons, possessions, and sinister relics, and we'll be doing that right after the break. Tomorrow night is another Fader night with open lines all night long, and there you go. Now this is where, and I'm gonna actually talk to Dr. Lynn about this tonight. When there were 2 movies for me when I was growing up that to this day still scare me. I find them completely terrifying, and that is The Exorcist and The Omen. Now, I watched both of those movies at a terribly young age in a movie theater, rated R, escorted by my parents. And they both scared me about the same. But there was one thing that happened in both of those movies that set the tone for tonight and this book. And that is, both of those movies start off with an archaeological dig, right? Somewhere in the Middle East, right? Or it's Jerusalem or Iraq. It's something's going on over there. And they unearth something, and then all hell breaks loose. Some, sinister relic. And I have never let go of that. In both of those movies today, and I still watch them. I ask Rita. I mean, The Omen scares the crap out of me. And I know the beginning, the middle, and the end. I know how it, I know I've read the books. I've done all of that. And I still can't help the feeling that I get from the beginning of both of those movies. And in The Omen, when those knives are dug up, you remember, and they unroll the pouch that they're in, and those knives are there. You just know, right? Well, that's what this book is about, partially. That you know that these digs happen. And throughout history, one of the ways to hide things, get rid of things, punish things, was to bury them, right? The bodies with the said relics. And they unearth them all the time. Now, is The Exorcist and The Omen scary movies, horror flicks, and I get all of that, but they're also religious based? Is there something there that is based in reality? Well, I'm here to tell you, and especially after reading this book, that is what goes on. They're out there digging, and that's what she does. It's going to be a fascinating show tonight. I cannot wait to get this discussion going. And as we do this conversation tonight, I want you to do just that. Let your imagination go. Go back to the beginning of The Exorcist, the beginning of The Omen, and how serious and what the implications were for the world after that. Think about it. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. It's going to be a great conversation tonight. Tomorrow night is open lines all night long. It is Fader night. And as far as you guys go and gals, you know what it is. It's my favorite night of the week where I can just sit down, relax, and talk with all of you. So we'll be doing that tomorrow night. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. You can follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Dr. Heather Lynn used to be on Twitter. Normally, right now, I would give our guest a Twitter account. I'm going to ask her why. She's no longer on Twitter. And so there you go. But it is drheatherlynn.com. It's Fade to Black on the Game Changer Network and KGRA The Planet. I'll be back with our guest right after this short break. Stay with us.
This is Nicole Church, daughter of you-know-who, and you're listening to Fade to Black on JimmyChurchRadio.com and the Game Changer Network.
You're listening to Jimmy Church, Fade to Black.
Fade to Black will now pause for alien identification.
The station that talks the net. KGRA Radio. When you take the beans from Central America with dashes of Indonesian and African mixed in and then roast it to the dark side of Fade to Black, you create the ultimate brew of fringe. Introducing the Fade to Black blend from River Moon Coffee. Yes, River Moon's darkest customized roast was created for the love of Fade to Black. The alchemy of masterful roasting and smoking the beans is in every sip of this full-bodied, dark Java. I need my coffee dark, deep, with distinct bittersweet chocolate highlights, just like the bunker. Leaning further into the darkness of the roast is Fade to Black blend from River Moon Coffee. Just click on the banner at JimmyChurchRadio.com and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today. Go Beckley Teppy. This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and you can get our podcast for just $2 per month. All you have to do is click on the podcast banner over at JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Hey folks, guess what the number one phrase that Life Change Tea receives by email? You ready? We love this tea. We love this tea. Time after time, week after week, we love this tea. Life Change Tea gives you more energy, a beautiful cleansing, and fulfills its slogan perfectly. The tea that makes you go. So if you want to be on your health game, log on to getthetea.com and order Life Change Super Strength Tea. Packages come in a 1-month supply, and when you brew this stuff, wait until you see the results. Aren't we all about the results? And with a lot of people's health struggling, we can use a little bit of help. Doctors will tell you disease starts in the gut. So log on to getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. Be our next email saying, I love this tea. I mean, I love this tea. Get the tea at getthetea.com. Helping America one tea bag at a time.
9 out of 10 geneticists agree.
Fade to Black is not your father's radio show on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, The Planet.
Do you want to lose weight but have no idea where to begin? The Fast Start Diet, a 3-day weight loss plan, is the answer. 3 days of nutritionally balanced, calorie-restricted meals delivered right to your door. No shopping, no measuring, and no cooking. Everything is prepared for you and ready to eat at home or on the go. The Fast Start Diet has all the amazing benefits of intermittent fasting without starving. We've helped thousands of people who have struggled to reach their weight loss goals. Isn't it time we helped you? With the Fast Start Diet, you'll lose weight and feel great.
Find Fast Start Diet on Amazon or go to faststartdiet.com and use promo code TALK to get 10% off your first box. And as a special bonus, Fast Start will include their #1 rated Lipo-3 appetite suppressant spray free with your order. This is Jimmy Church. And whatever your diet plans are, do what I did. Go to faststartdiet.com.
Hi, this is Rob Reiner from Anvil, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com. What's up? I'm Chris. What up? This is Kyle Massey, and you're listening to Jimmy Church Radio.
Welcome back, Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, Dr. Heather Lynn is here. Tomorrow night is open lines, Fader night, open lines all night long. This weekend I'm off. It's yard work. Yeah, that's my future. Maybe a little cookout too as well. Tonight it's Dr. Heather Lynn. She's an author, historian, renegade archaeologist. She's on a quest to uncover the truth behind ancient mysteries. She holds numerous degrees and certificates in both history and archaeology and is a member of the professional organizations including the American Historical Association, the Society for Historical Archaeology, the SHA, the Association of Ancient Historians, and the World Archaeological Congress. In addition to appearances on radio programs like Coast to Coast AM and right here on Fade to Black, she's also a historical consultant for the television programs, including Ancient Aliens. Tonight, we are going to talk about the new book. I'm holding it up for the cameras right here, Evil Archaeology. And we are going to dive deep into demons and possession and sinister artifacts and other gruesome archaeological discoveries. I would like to welcome back to Fade to Black, Dr. Heather Lynn. Dr. Heather, we had this discussion before. What do I do? Do I go Dr. Heather Lynn? Do I say Dr. Heather, Dr. Lynn, or do we just go with Heather?
Heather's fine. It's perfectly fine. I make sure I put the doctor in front of the Heather Lynn for advertising, because if you Google Heather Lynn, you'll find a lot of different Heather Lynns, and a lot of them are in different professions, shall we say, than I. And so, so I figured that might be a differentiator.
Yeah, right. Well, look, you earned it. First off, I mean I don't have any of those 3-letter professional things, following my name. I'd be touting that everywhere I go. Doesn't matter. Would you like fries with this shake? Yes, but call me doctor, right? I mean, it's just the way it would play out. It's been a while since you've been on with us. Obviously, we've got the new book here, but what else have you been up to?
Oh, a lot of writing. I have a couple books in the pipeline coming out, so one after another. So I've been doing a lot of writing, a lot of research, as you would imagine. Working with a production company. I have a project in the works that, can't get into all the details about, but it's for cable television, so that should be pretty exciting. So I'm doing a lot of things that way. So, some top secret things and whatnot. But yeah, I've been real busy. Good times.
Have you been traveling?
A little bit. but not as much as I would like. I've been kind of stuck in my office doing a lot of the, no, I shouldn't put it that way. I'm very grateful to have the opportunity to actually be stuck in my office to do this sort of work. But, now that I've wrapped up some of these writing projects, I'm having a whole lot of I plan on doing a lot more traveling. Like I said, I'm working on a television program that will have me pretty much going everywhere. So that I look forward to traveling a lot more this year.
Well, as a renegade archaeologist, have you noticed and are excited about, especially it seems like the last 2 years, where there is a lot being dug up around the world? It doesn't matter if it's Germany or Russia or the Middle East and Egypt, and even here in the United States, some very exciting stuff has been happening in North and South America. What do you make of that it's getting into the mainstream media like it is? I've never noticed it like this before.
It is pretty amazing. I'm not surprised, actually. I know that there has been a push to be more transparent, thankfully.
Right.
And it also helps with funding. So a lot of people have realized that when they open their research up to the public and get people excited over it, people are more likely to support the work, and then the funding sort of comes in as a result, or at least they hope that that's the case. I think you're seeing, too, a bigger effort to combat what is called pseudo-archaeology. I've seen a lot of these articles come across my desk from mainstream archaeologists who sort of recognize that there is a problem in the way they communicate or do not communicate with the general public. So for a long time, you have archaeologists and scholars in general who are basically writing for each other. They write in what's called academies, so that it's just sort of understood between the academics, and it's hidden in databases that only academics can access, and it's just sort of a closed system. Mm-hmm. Well, and that's, I think what's happening now is they're realizing that because they've been so cloistered, it leaves a vacuum, and people want to know about our past, and they want to know about all of the work that's going on. And so if there's a vacuum, then other people will fill it. And that can be with any kind of theory, whether it's the most fringe to just, anything that goes anywhere near against the mainstream narrative. Well, that's made them quite uncomfortable. And so they have actually had meetings. There's been lots of roundtable discussions and workshops about how do they combat the rise of what they call pseudo-archaeology. And so what you have now are a lot of people doing public outreach, archaeologists trying their best to, reach out to the public. But what's sort of funny is they're doing it quite clumsily. So you'll have, some archaeologists I'll give a personal example for one. My book is called Evil Archaeology. Before it came out, it was already attacked, which is absolutely silly and unfair because it's really not, I wouldn't call it too controversial, but it got attacked on Amazon and people started rating it before it was even out, before you could even review it. Right. And so they put terrible reviews on and said, I guess, another one of these fringe books or something to that effect. And I researched who it was that, put that out there. And I found that it was somebody linked to a very popular podcast and media outlet of mainstream academic archaeologists who go about and sort of act like they're the champions of the mainstream and they're going to get these fringe people and whatnot. Right. So I found that what they did, too, is they came out with their own publication called Spooky Archaeology. I hate to give them a plug, but it doesn't really matter too much because it's a misnomer. They came out with this book right before mine that looks to be similar to mine, but it's absolutely not. When you really look into it, it's a whole diatribe against pseudo-archaeology. It's completely nothing like what it's supposed to be, and it's about $70 last I checked, and it was because it was printed on a university press. And so my thought is, well, good job, guys. If you're really trying to be transparent and reach out and then maybe try writing a more interesting book and price it a little better than $70, like a textbook price. Like it was absolutely ridiculous. But the whole thing isn't even about spooky archaeology. It's about them going on rants about how bad fringe and alternative ideas are. So it's sort of a bait and switch sort of thing. But yeah, it's it's a shame. So, but there is a lot of rumblings in the mainstream right now. I think that the alternative has really, really gotten them down. I don't know if you heard the latest, but Stonehenge has a partnership now with Ancient Aliens, who were so generous as to give them funding, which they needed, and bringing attention to some of their needs. And you'd think this was a good thing, but the mainstream archaeologists are losing their minds. They're losing their minds, saying this is an outrage. How could they do this? How could they partner and with such a terrible show? And regardless of what you'd think about the show or its theories or whatever, it just seems sort of petty to go attacking something that a lot of people like and enjoy, and it's benefiting Stonehenge and English culture.
Where were all of those professional organizations 3, 4, 5 years ago when the Planning Commission started to plan a tunnel underneath Stonehenge? Or a new road, or wait a minute. If you want to preserve, if you want to have integrity, stop that. And
Exactly.
I was outraged. I just thought to myself, how can schools and these, where all of this archaeological funding comes from, and then that trickles down from states and governments. Where are you when something like this is going on with one of the most historical places on the planet? There's no question about that. You can't deface or dig or do anything to that. In fact, move the road.
Right. Exactly.
You don't need a tunnel underneath stone. Hey, build something. What are you talking about? But nobody wanted to say anything. So Ancient Aliens comes in and offers a little bit of help. And this is the other thing, Heather, and I'm not exaggerating in the least here. Ancient Aliens, like it or not, has done more for tourism in Egypt and Peru and Bolivia and Mexico and Stonehenge than anybody else.
I agree.
You just can't do that. People want answers, which goes back. I don't want to ramble, but I want to go back to your point. When we talk about pseudo archaeology, that is coming from Orthodox academia. The reason for them saying that is because of the vacuum you referred to. If they would be more transparent, then people wouldn't go and write the story. People wouldn't go and fill in the blanks because of them. There's big issues out there right now that they want to continue to keep their heads buried in the sand about. And one of them is the history of us, right? And
that's a big one. Yes.
The history of us. And we want these answers. Are they buried out there somewhere in some warehouse? Do you know something that we don't? Are you holding back? Well, the silence is deafening. And that's when they want to call them pseudo archaeologists, but people that are interested in the research, like yourself too, as well.
Absolutely, that's absolutely correct. And another point that sticks out to me most recently was a discussion that was going on a closed sort of board of historians, and it was spurred by an article from the Chronicle of Higher Education magazine. It was entitled "Historians, we are not your servants." And I thought, what is this? And so, I read the story, I look at the dialogue that's going along, and I was appalled. I couldn't even believe it. These people were complaining that they shouldn't have to answer the public's questions because this is their service. This is how they make a living. They likened it to giving free legal advice or health advice, and that was unprofessional and inappropriate, and they shouldn't have to do that. And I thought, is this really where we've come? And no wonder there's a vacuum. I looked at it like this. I became a historian because I was excited about learning history. I was excited about the things that I found out. I wanted to share that information. I wanted to correct the record or just share. I just simply wanted to teach and share. And for somebody to say, yeah, but no, my time's valuable, and I'm not going to answer your questions. What good are you? A historian tells stories. You're supposed to tell a story. You're supposed to speak. And so right now in the industry, they are objecting to this notion that anyone dare ask a question to them. In fact, they've come out with this advice to each other that if a student, and not just any, but a student, if they email you with a question, you need to vet them very well and then still, maybe or maybe not answer their question. And I thought, what? This just does, it boggles my mind.
It's the opposite.
It's the opposite.
Right.
It's the absolute opposite. So now what? So now if somebody is watching Ancient Aliens and there might be something inaccurate or that they may disagree with or, whatever, if they have a question and they think, well, maybe I'd like to contact that historian up at my local university. Well, what? They'll not respond to them? And then they go around and complain that, well, they don't listen to us. Nobody listens to nobody's. It's a ridiculous catch-22, and they're doing this to themselves. And I think they're going down as a result. I see the rise in alternative thinking and alternative archaeology, and it's like, well, this is what happens. And I think it's fine. I think there's nothing wrong with it. I think we need to be able to be comfortable and secure in our own thoughts and be able to explore ideas that sort of go against what we may believe or go against what we think. That's important. It's to push us out of those boxes that sometimes we put ourselves in even. But yeah, the idea that somebody were to ask me a question and I'd say, well, I'm not on the clock. Sorry about that. It's just preposterous to me. So no, that's an example of some of the problems that are going on right now in the field.
Yeah, I've gotten into a couple of heated discussions over the years with different archaeologists and anthropologists about Homo sapiens sapien and the missing link and Darwin. And they are so steadfast in that, okay, we don't have all the answers, but we know that we evolved from blah, 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 blah. That there wasn't anything magical, there wasn't anything strange, there wasn't anything, wait a minute. We just appeared, right? 150,000 years ago, our glorious selves with our bodies and our faces and everything, nothing like Cro-Magnon or Neanderthal or Homo erectus or any, going back to Lucy, which were all primates. I don't care what anybody says. That forehead, that jaw, that build, those bones, that's what we're talking about here. Us, humans, today are unique. Not only unique on this planet, just unique to everything. So, how did we get here? Well, Jimmy, you don't understand archaeology, man. You don't understand anthropology. You see, no, I do, actually. What I'm trying to say is we just appeared. So where's the missing link? If Darwin is right, and this is the problem that I have, if Darwin is right, then we've got millions of years of evolution behind us. Where is it? It doesn't exist, right? The proverbial missing link. But they don't want to talk about that. They just want to say, you know what, you're not smart enough. You're not an archaeologist. You're not an anthropologist. We know you don't. It sounds fantastical, okay, but we know that we evolved here. And I just want an explanation, Heather. That's all. And they won't give it.
Yeah. And it's a very elitist discipline for sure. And that's sort of the opposite of my belief set. I'm not elitist in any way. I couldn't afford to be elitist. My background is certainly the opposite of all that. So, when I went to college, first off, I didn't even finish high school. I ran away from home at 16 years old and started traveling the country and just had all sorts of wacky adventures. I guess we'll call them that. Right. So I took a very non-traditional route to these sorts of things. But I think that was actually one of the things that got me into this to begin with, is traveling across the country like that, late night radio. And that was a big part of the experience. And
sure.
Meeting people in truck stops and diners and talking to them all hours of the night about what they saw on the road and their personal experiences, and that sort of thing just stuck with me for a very long time. And when I went back to school, I started at community college, and I just worked my way up from there. And so I struggled through the whole thing. It's cost a lot of money and it's a lot of work, and not to mention the whole community college isn't so bad, but once you then go away from that and say you're in graduate school with a bunch of other doctoral candidates, and they're all they've had a different maybe way through it than you have, you start to see some of the injustices and the elitism at play, and then with the professors. And so it was, I felt like a double agent, especially after, I think it was my junior year in undergraduate, I contacted Michael Cremo. Everybody, I'm sure, is familiar with Michael Cremo. I would hope, at least. But I contacted him to ask him, for some advice, and I was surprised and pleasantly surprised that he responded and gave me that advice I was looking for, which was very helpful, because at the time I was getting a little disenchanted with everything. I thought, I just want to blow this popsicle stand and, just explore some of these alternative ideas. But, he essentially talked me off the ledge, and so I stayed in school. But what I did was I looked at it as an opportunity to do sort of, I guess, spy, double agent sort of thing, So I thought, when I get out of this, I'm taking all the skills that I'm acquiring here, and I'm going to use them for, in my mind, the better. Of course, if you ask my former professors, they would say I went to the dark side. But, that's, I guess, a difference in perspective, right?
Did you ever consider the straight and narrow and staying on the other side of the fence in academia?
I did. I really did, because what I started doing was community archaeology. I worked in downtown Cleveland on a lot of excavations, which sounds kind of weird. Like, well, what would be in downtown Cleveland? Well, a lot. It was quite fascinating to work in an urban environment. And I used to help out with a program they had for inner city youth to get involved in archaeology and learn their own, cultural past and these sorts of things. And so I've always had a passion for public involvement in archaeology and history. And so I did want to go into teaching, but it wasn't where I felt that I would be my most helpful. I mean, I still actually go and I work a few places at some local historical societies and do things like that. And it's also a really, that's a disaster. It's such a tragedy. The last one I worked for as a consultant, let me just say, if anyone wants to help archaeology, if anyone wants to help the efforts to know our past and preserve our past, and they feel they can't really do anything, go to your local historical society, just the local little, organization, and volunteer. Do anything you can. That's where it starts, is at the local level, because a lot of our local historical societies, they have amazing data, and it's being just lost because a lot of them just don't have the income or the volunteering, or just there's this sort of lack of interest that people are showing in their history. So I see it crumbling. I see it crumbling around us, and it's quite sad. So I've done a lot of working with local historical societies to try to clean up their archives, maybe digitize things and get that out into the public so that people can research these things, because there's hidden gems all around us, all around America. But a lot of us can't even get to see these things. I mean, boxes and boxes stacked in anything. I've seen them rotting in barns and basements, and just, it's amazing. So there's a lot of work to be done in history, and it seems that the historians and archaeologists, the people who are charged with doing this in the public trust, mind you, most of the time they're getting paid by taxpayer dollars. They're not doing this. They're not reaching out to the public. And so it's a tragedy. And so they really have no right to complain when people enjoy documentaries and all these different things that are reaching out to them to teach them, because nobody else is teaching anybody, it seems.
Yeah, and the thought of what is in the basements of the museums around the world that have been, stored away in boxes and completely forgotten. I mean, the amount of manpower it would take to go and check this stuff out. They just recently found in the Cairo Museum, in the basement, the model of King Tut's boat, right? And they didn't even know they had it.
Yes,
it's just like, and they put that on. It was headline news last week. But they only found it because they built the new museum over there, and they're moving the museum from one building to the other, to the new Grand Cairo Museum. And they found it in a box. And it had and it wrapped in a newspaper, I believe, from 1932. So probably wrapped up by Howard Carter himself, put in the box and forgotten.
Wow.
And what would it take, because we have all this excitement with, Göbekli Tepe and the stuff that's going on in Peru and around the world, what would it take for something to blow history's doors off? The paradigm shift in everything, whether it's religious or it's ET off-world related or parallel, just some crazy Atlantis. If that happened, would they announce it? Would they announce a game changer?
Well, I have a very specific answer to this, and my answer is we wouldn't get that information. We wouldn't even know it because they would have sort of pre-screened that. So the way this works, it's really terrible. I talk about this in a lot of my previous work with the sort of corruption that is the academic industrial complex, especially in the field of archaeology. And in archaeology, I'm sure I'll get the emails, but you know what? Stand up for what's right, because this is not right what's going on, especially in war-torn countries and in the Middle East. There's an idea that these professors are going out and they're doing this work, and then they come back and they scrub the artifacts and publish papers and teach and put things in museums, and it's just this beautiful, symbiotic. No, it's just not that way. Now, that's not to say that there haven't been those things. But that's not always what happens. And so when you have these larger scale excavations that are going on in politically sensitive areas where there maybe could be something found that is a game changer, they have that tightly locked. We don't even know about some of those excavations until after the fact. They're secret excavations. They're not funded outwardly and in the open in a transparent way. In fact, they're funded oftentimes by things like big oil or elite families who, and I don't even mean like Rothschild and boogeyman and stuff, although those types are actually funding excavations, but I mean actual individual elites whose sole mission is to get these artifacts for their collection unapologetically. They go out, and it's basically that they're hiring the universities to go and shop for them for these artifacts. So they launder the money. They go and they make foundations. They give the foundations money. The foundations turn it into grants. Then the grants go down to the university. The university hands that to the individual research lab, and then so on and so on. So there's so many points of separation. So the average person, they'll never know where that money came from and who's actually funding these things. Now, why that's important? It's because follow the money. So if say I am out there in Iraq currently digging, and I have been funded by an elite family and a global bank and big oil and a government intelligence agency, which these are all examples that are true. If I'm out there and I'm digging and I find something absolutely game-changing, a tablet that has something on it that says exactly where we came from, or an artifact that defies all physical laws, something that just does not fit at all, and it's just amazing. There is just no way anyone's going to know about that. What am I going to do? I have to give it up to who's paying the bills there.
Yeah, you can't. You can't exactly put it in your pocket.
You can't put it in your pocket. You can't. Yeah, there's nothing. You have to report this. You have to do. And so, what will happen at that point with this amazing game changer? Well, it's going to go to the highest bidder, whoever has the vested interest. It's certainly not going to go out to the public. The public gets little potsherds and little bits and pieces that will look nice in a museum after a couple years when the excavation's over and the papers have been written and there's nothing to see here, folks. Move it along.
Exactly. So we have to take a break. We have to take a break right here on that note. All right. Our guest tonight, Dr. Heather Lynn, holding it up to the cameras right here. Her new book, Evil Archaeology. We'll be right back after this short break on the Game Changer Network and KGRA, The Planet. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
The This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
This is KGRA Digital Broadcasting Station, Salt Lake City, Utah, Van Buren, Arkansas. Introducing the new Surfer Music app. Listen, fade or not, you know I love my music. This is my go-to for all things notes. The Surfer app is a brand new concept in music listening. Surfer is free, providing unlimited access to thousands of live streaming radio stations. Surfer is an exciting, interactive listening experience. Discovery and surprise are built right in. Surfer is your destination to discover and rediscover great live streaming music. It features high-quality audio streams, free access to music from thousands of live streaming radio stations, unlimited listening, unlimited skipping. You get a music visualizer, and you can also select your favorite channels. Get it at the Apple App Store or Google Play. Just search Surfer Music or click on the Surfer banner at jimmychurchradio.com. Go back, Lee Tappy.
Folks, this is very important information. What's to be said about CBD? AncientLifeOil.com. Our CBD is made from hemp and has 0.003 THC, which means this wonderful product won't get you high, no matter what amount you take. What does CBD do for the body? My hands are tied. But you can Google CBD benefits and be astounded. When you're finished reading, you'll want to log on to AncientLifeOil.com. That's AncientLifeOil.com and purchase. Life is good when you feel good. People are tired of pain. People are asking for non-GMO organic products to help them with, you fill in the blank. Legal in 49 states, and again, our CBD is made from hemp. Ancient Life Oil is about helping people one by one by one. If you wonder how good the product is, the CEO takes it every day without miss. AncientLifeOil.com. That's AncientLifeOil.com. Have a great day.
Hello, I'm Katie, and you're listening to my main man, Jimmy Church, on jimmychurchradio.com.
Hi, this is Ray Hobbs here, repping the planet, and you're listening to my good friend, Jimmy Church, Fade to Black, on the Game Changer Network and the KGRA Digital Broadcast Station.
This is Toby Kebbell. You're listening to jimmychurchradio.com. Don't hurt me, Jimmy. I'm only little.
Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier. And this is Ari Gold. We're the Honey Brothers.
Yes.
We're of the Honey Brothers. Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier.
And I'm Ari Gold.
We're the Honey Brothers.
And you're listening to Jimmy Church.
The Revolution.
Reclaim your active lifestyle with Angioprim. Angioprim is the original liquid oral chelation supplement. Chelation helps remove toxins, heavy metals, and cholesterol in your veins and arteries that can cause blockages. Scientific research proves the active ingredient in Angioprim has superior oral chelation action that helps promote cardiovascular health. Find out more. Go to angioprim.com. Talk to a trained consultant by calling Angioprim toll-free 877-882-7221.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and you can become an official Fadernaut by just going to our membership section at jimmychurchradio.com.
Hey, it's Grace. Can we talk about something serious for a minute? Your age. Getting old has its perks. But remember, being a few years younger, you know, your hair was thicker, you didn't have so many wrinkles, that extra weight wasn't haunting you, and you just felt better. Well, we can't turn back the clocks and go back 10 or 15 years, but you can start feeling and looking 10 or 15 years younger with Nature's Youth RSF. It's a doctor-formulated daily supplement that helps your body maintain its peak performance and fight the aging process. Imagine sleeping better, looking better, and feeling better. See how Nature's Youth RSF has helped thousands of people just like you at nature'syouth.com. nature'syouth.com. Imagine how it will feel when your family and friends are asking you what you did to look so good. Your secret will be Nature's Youth RSF. It's time to start looking better and feeling better. Learn more and order your Nature's Youth RSF at nature'syouth.com. That's nature'syouth.com. That's nature'syouth.com.
Hello, this is Serena Wright Taylor from Conscious Life Expo, and you're listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church, who holds the Lucky Pony record for the best astrological chart since 1963. True story.
This is Micah Hanks of the Gralien Report, and you're listening to Jimmy Church on Fade to Black, across the globe on the Game Changer Radio Network and the one and only KGRA Radio, The Planet.
Welcome back, Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Our guest tonight, Dr. Heather Lynn. Her new book, Evil Archaeology. Demons, Possessions, and Sinister Relics, which is where I got to start right there. And Heather, okay. This is my serious trip with all of this. And I always tie in my childhood, and I go back and it's still to this day, the opening like 10 minutes of The Exorcist or the opening 10 minutes of The Omen really set the stage when we start to think about what was buried around the world and the archaeology that goes along with it and what could possibly be found and what it could mean to all of humanity, right? All these things. But I feel that there is some historical fact in the opening to those two movies. And then I read this book and I'm like, aha, right? Hollywood didn't get it wrong for once. Is there some truth to that?
I think so. I mean, in a strange way, I think this book might have been a strange love letter to those types of movies. They motivated me when I was younger to look at some of these darker questions. I was brought up Catholic, and so of course I wasn't supposed to watch The Exorcist, and of course then I did, probably at too young of an age, I think, so it really affected me. And The Omen as well, it was quite frightening. But those things stood out to me, and it wasn't actually until much later that I saw The Exorcist again as an adult and already a professional, that it sort of hit me. It resonated with me in a different way that, hey, wait a minute, what does the archaeology have to do with this whole bit? And so it piqued my interest even more. And it wasn't long after seeing it again on cable television, sort of playing, the background, that I came across a strange news story out of North Carolina in 2014. It was a man who had been murdering and cannibalizing neighbors and burying them in his backyard. Actually, I should say his mother's backyard. He lived at his mother's home. And so it was kind of a, typical gruesome crime story. But what wasn't typical was that his name was Pazuzu.
No,
he had legally changed his name.
Are you serious? Okay, wait. Hold on. For the audience, who is Pazuzu?
Pazuzu is the gentleman on the cover. I mean, the demon on the cover of my book. He is a Mesopotamian demon, the demon of the southwestern wind. It is the demon from the movie The Exorcist,
right,
that you'll see in the opening scene, and he's quite obscene looking and frightening, and he is the demon who then goes on and is responsible for the possession of the main character in the movie The Exorcist. But it's an actual demon from Mesopotamia, so the William Peter Blatty got that absolutely correct in his book and of course the movie. And so that demon, Pazuzu, is what this man's name was. He was originally John Lawson, and he grew up in just suburbs in North Carolina. And after struggling with clear mental health issues, he went on to recruit sort of a brotherhood of disenfranchised people, and he got a girlfriend and one of her friends to help him do these things as a way to worship Pazuzu and honor Pazuzu. And so he had this idea that the Sumerian religion involved a monthly blood sacrifice, first, of course, of a small animal until he worked his way up to humans. But he had to perform these rituals during what he called the Black Moon in order to appease Pazuzu. And so it's quite a weird story, I mean, to say the least. But I started looking at this. It really struck me as eerie. And probably, of course, because of my interest in the movie, The Exorcist. And so I started looking more into it, and I found pictures and video that had been taken from the inside of his mother's house. And it was just so disturbing. There were Sumerian markings and occult symbols all over the walls and ceilings of his living room. There were cutout pictures of Sumerian demons and Anunnaki pinned all over the walls. His kitchen was filthy, and it's where he had prepared the victim's body for consumption. He had demonic imagery all over that, strips of fly tape covered in dead flies hanging from above like hellish party streamers. And when you left the kitchen, it was ankle-deep garbage lining the halls, leading to bedrooms that were just piled high with more grime and clutter and still more Anunnaki and demon imagery everywhere. And so it was just really disturbing, to say the least, but he was arrested and charged with first-degree murder. He and his girlfriend and the female friend were all charged with various charges. But about 3 a.m, some days after, the guards at the prison where he was in Raleigh found him in a pool of his own blood in his cell. And the autopsy report showed he had cut his left arm on the inside of his elbow like he was trying to cut his arm off. The report said he had perforated his left brachial artery, which was most likely what caused him to just bleed out. But aside from that, he had many deep scratches on his chest, arm, and scalp, and even rib fractures, although he was alone in his cell. And the autopsy couldn't truly determine how he got those wounds. They just knew that he bled out. And so they ruled it a suicide because they really just had no other way to rule it. But before that, he had begged his psychiatrist to let him perform this so-called Black Moon ritual to Pazuzu, fearing that if he didn't, he would anger Pazuzu and then eventually, be killed by Pazuzu. Even his own mother had warned the police and begged them to, help her son, because she really feared that if he wasn't able to do this, that he may in fact kill himself. It was so important to him to do this ritual. And so I started looking at this tragic case, and I thought, could the Pazuzu demon, could it have been behind these murders? As silly as that may sound.
Right.
Clearly he was responsible for the death of these people. But I sort of thought about his professed inspiration, which was Pazuzu. He said it inspired him. And I thought, well, he wasn't possessed, but he was inspired. And so I really thought about the etymology of inspiration. And it comes from the Latin inspirare, meaning to breathe or blow into. And it was originally used to describe when a supernatural being imparts an idea onto someone. So I thought, well, what is possession then but maybe an evil entity blowing an idea into somebody, or maybe it going too far and eventually inhabiting a willing person to encourage them to do these evil things. And so, I thought, were these criminals just psychologically disturbed? Or maybe the Pazuzu spirit found willing avatars to carry out these deeds. So it's just a thing I kicked around for a little bit and thought, I think I need to look into this a little further, sort of the origin of demons and what role they may have played in ancient civilizations, and sort of what role do they play now, if any? That's what made me write the book, essentially, was The Exorcist.
Exactly. See, this is, listening to that, we're talking about a modern situation where we think all of this stuff is in the past, right? It was a different era when this kind of stuff went down. Clearly, this was 2014. But let me ask you this. Let's suppose something here. How do you get rid of his story? Right? You don't want that coming to a theater near you. You don't want other people to be inspired by what he had done. And so do we bury it? Do we bury his body? His house? Do we tear it? Do we, you know what I mean? Do we hide all of the evidence, buried in the ground, burn it, and get rid of it like they did in the past? When something like this happened, when they thought that the local village girl or boy was possessed by, what did they do? Right? They would. Right. Is this been going on throughout history? This is exactly what you wrote about in the book.
Yes, that is. They they would do that. They didn't want to have other people be inspired. I think really that does come down to that. So like copycat killer or anything, but maybe they thought of it in those terms, or maybe they actually thought of it in the terms of spirit possession.
Right.
It's really hard to say, but that's one of these blurry lines where it's like, well, it may be about semantics at the end of the day, but I think it really does have real consequences for people, this idea of evil and demons and spirits and these sorts of things. So, I mean, if you were to ask the mother of the victims in North Carolina, they would probably have a far different answer. But so how real is real? What does it take to make something, real that way? And so all throughout history, we've had examples of cultures having this relationship with demons in some way, and it goes very far back. And in the book I discuss the prehistoric idea of demons. So we have a lot of evidence to suggest that even prehistoric shamans were doing exorcisms in the form of trepanning, or drilling a hole in somebody's head. And so we have this idea that there are these spirits in the head and we need to get them out. And so, you see that, but that's, again, with archaeology, everything's ritual and everything's sort of conjecture that way. So, but we do then have, at least in the Sumerian records, clear evidence, some of the best evidence of exorcism. So we have going 4,000 years ago, we have Sumerian cuneiform tablets that outline just line by line what an exorcism is supposed to look like, and these rites appear very similar to those of the Catholic Church, or something we recognize today in pop culture. So in Sumer, they had scribes and a university system in a way. They were very advanced, and they had an advanced system of training professionals. And so because of that, they had textbooks. And as a result of that, we know what they taught them. So there's still these textbooks available. They're in tablet form, of course, but we have many, many things to look at to understand what it was that they were teaching their physicians at the time. Their medical physicians were being taught exorcisms. They didn't sort of separate the body and mind back then. It was sort of just one. Mm-hmm. So it was the job of the doctor to also do the exorcisms. And so of the roughly 1,000 cuneiform tablets held by the British Museum of these medical texts, 660 of them specifically reference exorcism in a recognizable way. So we can see all sorts of things that, it's just part of our human experience, and it has taken many different shapes and forms, and in some ways it would be recognizable, in some ways not. But definitely the Sumerian exorcisms, I believe, were a big inspiration for the way that we look at exorcisms today. And also medicine in some ways. One of the reasons that the priests in popular culture, or actually just in the Catholic rite of exorcism, and many others, that you would demand to know the name of the demon, that actually comes from the Sumerian text as well. In the Sumerian text, it instructed the physicians to demand to know the name of the demon, try to figure it out. It was so important because essentially the name of the demon was the diagnosis. Right. So as today we'd say cancer, they would say, oh, well, you have a case of Pazuzu. Right. And so they would know then how to cure it from that. And the demons weren't always bad. They were sort of, they were bad and possibly good, or at least they could be used for good. Again, with the case of Pazuzu, which, we see his imagery a lot because there were so many artifacts of Pazuzu dug up because people actually wanted to have these amulets. So you wouldn't want anything to do with Pazuzu. He's very scary. But if you're a pregnant woman or a new mother, you would actually want to have a Pazuzu amulet or even a plaque beside your bed or by your baby's bed to protect you from Pazuzu's angry, jealous, and barren wife, Lamashtu, who was known to go and cause miscarriage and sudden infant death. And so what you'd do is you'd make sure that the husband, Pazuzu, was around so that he would literally whip his wife into submission. And so there's depictions of this, one of which is called they call it the Hell Plaque. It's at the Paris Museum. And it shows this whole exorcism scene, and in the underworld you see the Lamashtu kind of going to get the infant, and then you see Pazuzu behind whipping her, like, get away, demon. So yeah, they had a very complex relationship with these entities. It wasn't all bad.
Well, I want to. Well, I've got two questions, but the first thing, I want to get to the village in Germany. That is a pretty fascinating thing. But before I get to that, would you have a Pazuzu amulet, an original, in your own home? I mean, is that just like, you know what I mean? Is that asking for trouble? Or not?
You know, that's a really great question. I think before I wrote this book, I'd say, yeah, why not? You know, because I'm not really that superstitious. But I think after writing the book, and not necessarily because of what I researched, but because of my experiences and some of the conversations I had with people while writing this book, that maybe there is some truth to some of these things being bad juju around you or something. But even if it's just something of a subconscious nature where you're, imprinting that out there, I'm not really sure. But I don't think I would want to have it sitting around looking at me, although I don't know that I could say that I have a very good scientific reason for that. But at this point, I wouldn't want it looking at me.
You're on a dig in Israel, right? And you're there, and you unearth one of these, and the guy from the Smithsonian or for Harvard or whoever who's running the dig comes up. You know what? Keep it. Do you? I mean, that, you know what I mean? Some 2,000, 3,000-year-old, and you don't know where it's been, Pazuzu necklace or statue. Do you take that home? I would. You know what? I just wouldn't. I think I would. I would. Yeah,
I don't think I would do. Ethics aside, I don't think I would want to do that. I mean, because you just never know, right?
You never know.
I would hedge my bets. I don't think I would.
Yeah. I
want to mess with that.
I've seen The Exorcist. Okay, now when we're talking about some of this ritual stuff, one of the. There's so many different examples in this book that cause your imagination to wander. And what the village in Germany, how 6,000 years old, right?
Okay,
this is, I want to discuss this for a second, but I want to get to the end of the village first, and I want everybody to understand what we're talking about. It appears that, if my memory's right from reading the book, that the village was only there for 50 years. Right? And that everybody around Europe, so many thousands of years ago, was going there for some type of ritual. And a lot of crazy stuff went down in this village. As an archaeologist, when you start to unearth these things, the story starts to tell itself, and you now reveal a pretty dark side to this village. Tell us about it.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many examples of this happening. It's really quite weird. I mean, we get a lot of times where we talk about haunted places, and I think I sort of cover that in the book a little bit, but a lot of times we think of them as just haunted houses or what have you. But there's a lot of strange places, not just houses. And so this would be an example of how the...
Oh, did we lose you? Did you hear that clunk? Okay, Heather, if you can hear me, I heard your microphone go clunk. That was, see, I knew it. You start talking about the CIA. And it happened at the break here. So let me see if I can get Heather back right before the break. But, yeah, I heard it go clunk. Something happened. I thought it was me, but I wasn't moving. Okay, all right. Let's see here. Hold on.
Please leave a message.
Nope, she is not there. That is absolutely bizarre. You heard it, didn't you? Clunk. That sounded like something sinister went down in her studio. Okay, I'll try to... Okay, what happened?
Hello? Are you there?
What happened?
I don't know.
We
were talking about a Neolithic massacre.
That was crazy. It sounded poltergeistish. It sounded like something fell over.
Oh wow! It was nice and calm here.
That was cool.
It's my mind getting.
I know. I heard a kerplunk. Yeah, somebody just said that's spooky. I'm watching everybody. Of course, you got to love it. You talk about this scary stuff that happens on live radio. Okay.
Oh, wow.
We're going to be going into a break here, but so we'll set this up for when we come back. And that is what got unraveled at. What was the name of the village?
It was Herxheim, Germany.
Herxheim, Germany. As they start to unearth this, it was like one of the darkest stories that you could ever imagine that was unfolding for an archaeologist or an anthropologist, right?
I think it's probably up there, yeah.
Well, see, okay, all right. We're going to talk about this when we come back. But there was one point to this story where I went, ew. And that was the vertebrae. Right? Now, when we are vertebrae, to me, just looks scary. Right? There's something, and what was dug up out of the ground there when it came to the vertebrae, now we have to figure out what actually is going on. And now I know the audience is tripping right now, Heather. We're going to tell you everything when we come back after this short break. Stay with us. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Our guest tonight, Dr. Heather Lynn, and we're talking about her book, Evil Archaeology. We'll be right back after this short break. Stay with us.
Way out here, we listen to Jimmy Church.
You're listening to Fade to Black.
Always on the edge of the hottest alternative talk. Jimmy Church with Fade to Black. KGRARadio.com.
¿Qué tal, mis amigos? Yo soy Mario Carson, el tiburón, y los invito para que escuchen a mi buen amigo Jimmy Church Radio. ¡Claro que sí!
Hurricanes, earthquakes, wildfires. This year we've experienced more than our fair share. This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and last month I decided to make sure my family does not have to worry about food should we get caught in a real emergency situation. Introducing Numana, a healthy, storable product that tastes so good that you'll want to eat it every day instead of just during those times of duress. All Numana products have a 25-year shelf life, are MSG and GMO-free, no preservatives, and are made in America. With the Numana pack in your home, you'll be able to sleep at night knowing that you've protected your family. Not only have I tasted and tested, I own it. Now you can too. Just click on the Numana banner on JimmyChurchRadio.com and use the promo code Jimmy when you order. In addition to a discount, we'll send you an autographed Fade to Black t-shirt. Seriously, go Beckley Tappy. Do you want to be an official Fadernaut? Of course you do. This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black. Just go to our membership section at JimmyChurchRadio.com. Introducing the new Surfer Music app. Listen, Fadernauts, you know I love my music. This is my go-to for all things notes. The Surfer app is a brand new concept in music listening. Surfer is free, providing unlimited access to thousands of live streaming radio stations. Surfer is an exciting, interactive listening experience. Discovery and surprise are built right in. Surfer is your destination to discover and rediscover great live streaming music. It features high-quality audio streams, free access to music from thousands of live streaming radio stations, unlimited listening, unlimited skipping. You get a music visualizer, and you can also select your favorite channels. Get it at the Apple App Store or Google Play. Just search Surfer Music or click on the Surfer banner at JimmyChurchRadio.com. Go Beckley Tappy.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7 with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
You listen to us, and we listen to you. And so does the CIA. KGRARadio.com.
If you have hard water, the lime scale not only leaves white spots, it clogs pipes and breaks down appliances, costing you hundreds of dollars in energy and wear. Eliminate lime scale and other water issues like brown staining and bad odors with HydroCare water products available from Wave Home Solutions. Wave's affordable water systems don't use salts or chemicals. You'll love the way your water tastes, smells, and looks. Satisfaction guaranteed. For more information, go to bestwater123.com. That's bestwater123.com.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
You are listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Oi, oi, I'm Reese Evans. You're listening to Jimmy Church. This is Revolution. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution is on radio. Ciao.
Welcome back, Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Heather and I are texting during the break. I'm going to keep it private, but oh man, Heather, you left Twitter.
Yes,
I knew.
Yes, I did.
You know, since we're talking about evil archaeology, I got the evil laugh right there, and you left Twitter. And see, this is the thing. I wish you wouldn't have left Twitter, but when you are out there pushing like you are, right? You are pushing it. You know you're doing the right thing if you have somebody come at you, and you know you probably shouldn't have left. But
well, you're right. I yeah. Maybe not. I probably looked like I let them win if I left that way. So yeah. It was a it was a very dramatic situation.
Yeah, I know. It just tells you that you're doing the right thing, and
I don't know because it wasn't really about archaeology at all. It was about a crazy person, a crazy person.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, speaking.
Yeah, I actually thought about posting about it on my blog, and I thought, I'm just going to leave it be and just not put the negativity out there, and just, maybe just get off Twitter. But maybe I'll get back on Twitter. Maybe I will. Maybe that's what I'll do.
Yeah, you should. Look, just block. That's all you got to do. Just block, and and they eventually go away. Now, this village, Herxheim. When you are out there, I'm talking about yourself specifically, you're out doing a dig and you start to see the picture getting painted, right? And in the situation with Herxheim, which turned out to be because this is the Neolithic period. This is a long time ago, where you wouldn't think that this type of organization of the the rituals apparently that were going down there wouldn't be happening, but they clearly were. And you start to see the story unfold. And the story of Herxheim is about as crazy as it gets. And we just don't think that things like this went on in the past.
Yeah, I mean, that's some people call it the noble savage. That's like an old idea in anthropology that, when you have villages or maybe just long time ago Neolithic people, that they were maybe more peaceful, or, you have ideas sometimes that they were living in nature, and sometimes we have a tendency to romanticize it. And then when you come across sort of these sites, and it's like wake up call. They weren't all that nice after all, maybe. But in this town in Germany, there was a team of European archaeologists that, started excavating a massive bone pit. And, it could have been an accident. I mean, it's not really unusual to find a lot of bones in one location. But what they started to find was that it was clear evidence that these bones had been, cannibalized. People had been eaten. So you could tell right away from the scratches and the scrape marks that they were consistent with meat removal. And in addition to that, because some people can also, argue, in which they have, saying, well, no, that, those were just coincidental. Although, I mean, it's very clear. Aside from that, if that weren't enough, some of the bones were charred. And so, they had vertebrae, as you mentioned, and long bones fractured so that the prehistoric human fingers probed inside to extract the marrow. You could just tell that these prehistoric people were feasting. Ugh. And this was a big bone pit of human remains. And so this was no accident, and it was pretty clear. But the mass grave, I mean, this was like 7,000 years ago in Germany.
And that's true. That's the definition of evil archaeology right there. That's not spooky archaeology. I'll tell you that. That's evil archaeology, because now you are forced as an archaeologist, and you're sitting there having to put the history together. What's going through your mind? Well, the same thing that went through my mind, which is the members of this village sitting around poking their fingers through vertebrae and getting the marrow out around a campfire and
just
feasting
it like it's chicken wings or something, right?
Oh, man.
Like going to B-dubs and getting some vertebrae.
Right. Yeah. Yes. And yes, that's exactly what was going on.
It's terrible to laugh, but I mean, this is 7,000 years ago, so
yes.
Too soon. No, but I mean, this was something that you could now, if you were to find this, you could start to think of a number of different hypotheses. So you could say, well, they were starving. I mean, obviously the Donner Party, and I mean, this happens even now where people are in a very stressful situation and they have to do what they have to do to survive, then perhaps it was due to survival. But in this particular case, it actually appeared that the Neolithic farmers in Central Europe, I mean, these were farmers, this is Neolithic era, that they were engaging in regular acts of cannibalism in a systematic way. And so what you see is, at least, I mean, when I say bone pit, it might seem like, well, maybe a good amount of bones there, but just to give you an idea of how many bones, it would be the bones, butchered bones, of at least 500 people.
And this is the closer for this. Is that going through the DNA of these cannibalized bones, cooked bones, they came from all over Europe. They weren't just from Germany, which says to me and to the historians that people were traveling to this village for these rituals.
Yeah, some of them as far away as northwest France.
Oh man. And then it all stopped. The village was only around for about 50 years.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and it's just really amazing, because some people have said, well, maybe these were sick people, or maybe they weren't. Maybe this was stuff that happened after they had died. And I mean, I don't know why, but there's a lot of people trying to make excuses for this horrific find, but None of the bones showed any signs of malnutrition or poor health or injury or anything like that. And in fact, some of the bones were from babies and unborn fetuses and old women, men, everybody. They didn't discriminate. It was just, let's eat them all. So specifically, though, you can tell from the marks on the bones that, in addition to being carved and charred, they had been put on skewers.
Oh, man.
So, I mean, they were making a real thing of this. This was, some people may say this was a religious thing. Maybe they were walking this many hundreds of miles to get to this village to do this, but we really have no way of knowing. But all we do know is that this was a very gruesome find.
Now, when we talk about sinister relics, I brought up the Omen and the Exorcist earlier, and I was somebody posted the name of the daggers that were unearthed at in the Omen. I don't know how to say it. Is it Megiddo? Is that
Megiddo? Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Is this something that happens often, where an archaeological dig and relics of this kind are actually unearthed?
Well, I don't know that it's that common. I wouldn't say that it's common. I mean, but then again, we don't really know what they dig up now, do we? They're not very transparent about those things, and so how do we know really what would be a sinister relic, unless we understood completely that this is maybe a Pazuzu statuette or something to that effect. But unless you know what you're looking for, unless you're specifically out there commissioning these digs, looking for particular items that you think have occult value, which has been done.
So what is the definition of a sinister relic?
Something sinister would be just foreboding, or something that maybe would scare the archaeologist or scare a person who looked at it, something that would be so frightening that maybe they felt they had to rebury it, which was actually the case. With one Aztec artifact in particular, it was just a goddess statue it was quite large, about 9 feet, that was just so frightening to the archaeologists. They felt they needed to just go ahead and rebury it and never look at it again, which is actually a good fate for it, because they ended up being able to excavate it again, and now it's in the museum in Mexico City. Whereas other examples of archaeologists being a little too scared to excavate something or to bring it back, they would just simply destroy it. And so then we have some lost history there out of people being afraid. But, that's what happened a lot, especially when you have the Christian coming into the New World situation, where they brought their Christian ideas of what demons were, and they saw these pagan gods, and they said, well, these things are definitely demons, and so they demonized these pagan deities and would sometimes destroy them or deface the art, thinking they were doing something holy, or but I think that was definitely based in fear as well.
And then we have, I actually want to stay right here for a second, because when you have evidence of, how do I want to say this, where the body specifically was buried because of bad things, whether it was facing the wrong way, it was decapitated, arms are cut off, buried with a child. And there was a reason for doing that. And as an archaeologist, when you see that, how do you react to it, and how do you figure out why this happened to this individual?
Well, there's a lot of pre-existing sort of explanations for that in the literature. So if you would find something like, well, and some of it not, but some of the more basic ones would be like the vampire burials, something where, you'll find a brick or something put into the mouth, or something, the stake through the heart, those sorts of things. Those would be clear indicators that the person who was buried there, they didn't want them to come back. So there's that. But then sometimes you get Yeah, well, then you have the historical record you have to think of, like the case with the severed hands. In Egypt, they found a pit of severed right hands. That's all it was, just severed right hands, not left. There were no feet. It was nothing like that. And so at first you would think, well, what is this? And of course you're going to say ritual, because that's, what archaeologists often do. But in all seriousness, it was, because of historical literature, so say hieroglyphs, biblical verses even, that depicted warriors cutting off the hands of their opponents that they, had defeated. Egyptian lore describes the practice as proof of an enemy's defeat, with a severed hand exchanged like it would be for gold. So it's like proof that you killed the person. And so, there's all these different things. So you'd have to sort of look at that and in the context, and then see if there was any other data that you could get. And so you really have to take it as a case-by-case basis. And then there's some, I think I just posted one on my Facebook, I think earlier today, that was a new thing that popped up that was quite creepy, actually. They find these things called coffin births. It's where you find a woman who, clearly dead, but then you find that it looks as though she had given birth after she was dead. And so they call it the coffin birth. So these women are giving birth even after they're dead. And so what you find in that situation, though, is an explanation.
Wait. Hold on a minute here. Hold on a minute. Wait a minute. What are we talking?
Post-mortem fetal extrusion, right, also known as coffin birth.
In the ground.
In the ground. So what it is, though, and of course this would have scared ancient people to death, but now we sort of have an idea. Now, this is also just a theory. Let me just put that out there. But the theory is that it's due to a natural process of decomposition. So it's the pressure from gas during composition that builds up in the womb. And, fair warning, this can get a little graphic, but the decomposition, it builds up in the womb, and it will cause so much pressure that it then just explodes, and it blows a hole right through the uterus and into the vagina, and it forces the fetus out of the body, and it results in what looks to be that the corpse of a pregnant woman gives birth after death. And so you see that. And
is there a possibility, I've got to ask the obvious question,
right,
that the baby is still alive?
I would say probably not, because by the time the body would decompose to the level that it'd have this gas, the nutrient and oxygen supply to the baby would have been cut off. If the mother's dead, and then there's the placenta and the blood flowing to give oxygen to the baby, it wouldn't have long before it would die. So I would say, thankfully, that by the time the decomposing body gets to that point where it's going to just blow the fetus out,
right,
that the fetus was already dead. But in this particular recent case in Italy, the woman had also been treated with trepanation, the drilling the hole in the head, so that what they believe is she was suffering from sort of a preeclampsia or some sort of hypertensive disorder, and so they maybe were trying to help her by drilling the hole in her head. That didn't work, and then she just ends up dying, and then blasts the baby out in the post-mortem. So yeah, that would be considered another, I guess, horrific archaeological discovery. But again, if you come across that, it would look really weird. But if you sort of know that there's such a thing as post-mortem fetal extrusion, then you could say, okay, this looks to be one of those cases. And so each thing you have to sort of take as a case by case. And then that's where osteoarchaeology comes into play. You really have to know the bones and be able to look at it that way. But
now, it also reminds me, a little bit off subject, but in the past where they would have a bell right above the grave with a string going down into the coffin, just in case somebody wasn't really dead, they could ring the bell.
Hence the term dead ringer.
Dead ringer, right.
Yes.
And then there was, and this is another little blurb in the book that also caught my eye, about having to go out and check on people that were buried to make sure that they were still dead.
Yeah, because they didn't have a really good corner back then. So, you could be maybe just passed out, or sometimes, sadly, really drunk. You might have just drank yourself into, oblivion, and then, I guess poor Uncle Joe is just down for the count, and then go through the burial and everything, and nope, guess he was alive after all. It happened more often than you'd think. So, yeah, they would do that.
Yeah, I want to get over. This is why everybody should get the book. I mean, it is full of. I had said to Heather earlier today, all I did was let my mind just went. I was painting all of these vivid pictures in my mind as I'm reading the book. It was just so much fun to do in a weird way, and it's great. And so is vampires.
What would you think of the Mesopotamian toilet demon?
Yes. Okay. Well, actually, tell us about the Mesopotamian toilet demon.
Well, it's actually a kind of a common thing you'll find, strangely, in the ancient texts, is there were these toilet demons. And so there are a lot of warnings about toilet behavior and how to be safe and guard against the dreaded toilet demon. One of the warnings is that after coming from the toilet, you should not have intercourse immediately, or else the children that you may have after that intercourse will be epileptic. And so there's this whole mythos around that. So there was definitely a sort of set of manners and etiquette around the toilet and what you should do to avoid this toilet demon. And so basically it parallels the beliefs of the Akkadians. And so this goes all the way back to Sumer, Babylon, and even in Hebrew and Jewish faith, they kind of carried this thing along. But this demon was supposedly living in toilets. It looks sort of like a lion. Sometimes it looks like a goat, but it lives in toilets, and it causes epilepsy to either the children, of course, if you do wrong, unhygienic things, but it can also cause the person going to the toilet to have epilepsy, strokes, or sudden falls. And so in one case, it's mentioned in a medical handbook that if somebody falls on their left side during a seizure or stroke, then that's an indicator that they had been struck down by the hand of the toilet demon.
I was going to read that passage right now. And if his right side is let down, stroke inflicted by a lurker, he will recover. If the right side of his body is in its entirety let down, stroke inflicted by a lurker, he has been hit at the rear. Now, and
it's the rear, yes.
Yes,
you can imagine with.
and this is the crazy part about this is that the demon finds it easy because you're alone at your most vulnerable. Yes, and I would say that is true, right?
Yes, and that's part of your lurker kind of archetype demon that you'd find in the ancient world. These lurkers would not just be at toilets, but they would be in dark areas, abandoned places, and this sort of thing. But this one is specifically it lurks around the toilet, and so when you're alone, yes, and at your most vulnerable, beware of the toilet demon.
I know.
It can cause problems.
I'm taking crystals into the bathroom from now on. So I want to continue this after we come back after the break. But vampires. Now I have read in. I'm just going, let's say in the last 2 years, where I have read different news reports and press releases of different archaeological digs around the world. I have seen vampire in more of these press releases than others. And so what would indicate, and this is dating back way before Dracula and the book, Bram Stoker. This is predating all of that. How far back does vampirism go?
Oh, I mean, it does. It goes as far back as the record, really. I mean, there's all sorts of accounts of this idea of blood sucking and people being afraid. And so Yeah, I mean, it's another one of these things that sort of travels with us, just like demons in general, witches, and all of these spooky things that I guess are the things that nightmares are made of, and that they still carry a significance. So, and vampires are a constant through history, I would say.
And what is it that you look for as an archaeologist when you're doing a dig like this and you find a skeleton or remains to indicate that this person was buried because they were a vampire?
Anything really that would show that you didn't want them to rise again from the dead, because that was something that was very prominent in this idea that these vampires would not die. They would be able to appear dead or what have you, but then they could, rise again. And so you'd want to make sure that they couldn't do that. So any way that you could do that by either having a stake through the heart, mutilated bones, so that if they were to sort of resurrect, they wouldn't be able to go anywhere or do anything, and a number of different things. So legs could be out of place. Sometimes something put into their mouth, and a lot of that was also to sort of indicate that, yes, this was a vampire, in case maybe a grave robber or somebody like that would come across that. They would say, oh, wait, no, don't mess with this. This is a vampire grave, because if you didn't do these things, the vampire could rise again. So they could pin them down with rings, anything you could imagine, really. The whole idea was just to keep them down so they couldn't resurrect from the grave. And so, it's really another, I think that's one of the things when I put in the book, horrific archaeological discoveries, the idea, people say, well, what is horrific? What is gruesome? What are these things? Something to me would be a strange arrangement of human remains. I think there's something inherently disturbing about that as a human.
Right.
When you look and you see bizarre and disturbing burials, that's just something that I think it reminds us of our own mortality. And there was the case of I talk about in the book, of the Capuchin crypt in Rome. For just reasons they don't even know, the Capuchin monks started to decorate 5 rooms of their crypt beneath their little church with bones of their dead brothers. And it wasn't just their dead brothers, because they later found out they were the bones of orphaned village children as well. But the crypt, it has all of these different bones and these decorative arrangements of about 4,000 people so far that they've counted. That's a lot of people. That's a small village. That's, if that could be a little town of 4,000 people, including the friars and the local orphans all put together. So they have all of these remains, and they're just in the most elaborate formations as decorations. So they have chandeliers, candelabras, crosses. They even have a coat of arms. And in a way, it's really astonishing, and it's beautiful until you really look and say, wait a minute, those are knuckle bones. They're like 20 femurs right there. Wait a minute, what am I looking at? It's really gruesome. And at the entrance, there's a plaque that sort of reminds everybody. It says, what you are now, we once were. What we are now, you shall be.
The thought of, because, the stake through the heart, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, we get that. We've all seen the movies. But when that is found in a dig, is the stake done after the body is dead? You know what I mean? To keep it from coming back alive? I don't know that. Yeah, I mean, I think that in some cases, yes, but in some cases, no. I think that if you were in a village and you knew you had a vampire and you blamed them for all your woes and your hardships, I think that it wouldn't take much for somebody to be motivated to just do that while you're still alive. And the thought of, we've got to take a break right here, but recovering or looking at a skeleton, the remains, and having it chained to the ground, right, or tied to the ground, you're right. I mean, as humans, that's one of the most frightening things that you could see, and you would even wonder if they were buried alive. Right. Yeah, let's take a break right here. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, our guest is Dr. Heather Lynn. We're talking about her book. Oh, I've got the page open right here. The Mesopotamian toilet demons right there. It's called Evil Archaeology. We'll be right back.
Hi everybody, this is Rob Halford, the Metal God on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
This is KGRA Digital Broadcasting Station. Salt Lake City, Utah. Van Buren, Arkansas.
Poor water quality is a major health issue, and it's only getting worse. Municipalities can't keep up, standards have dropped, and pollutants are increasing. Where does it all end? It ends by keeping the pollutants outside of your home with HydroCare's advanced systems available at Wave Home Solutions. No less than the best purification materials and processes have been developed by HydroCare to provide you with healthy, clean water for drinking, cooking, and showering. HydroCare far surpasses the competition in removing chlorine, odors, iron, lead, chemicals, limescale, and much more. Don't settle for less when it comes to your water. We'll take care of the toughest water problems for you, whether it's from a city or well source. Satisfaction guaranteed. For more information, call 888-997-WAVE. That's 888-997-WAVE. Or go to bestwater123.com. That's bestwater123.com.
Wave Home Solutions for a healthy, comfortable home.
Your contact for current news and trending topics. KGRARadio.com.
Does your basement or crawl space have a damp, musty smell? Well, watch out. That's a sign of too much moisture and not enough ventilation. And that can mean increased mold growth and the buildup of harmful toxins and gases. Don't bother with a dehumidifier. It just circulates the same unhealthy air. Now there's a better way to remove these dangers and odors. It's with the computerized Wave Moisture Control Unit that reduces moisture and expels pollutants.
We replaced our old dehumidifier with the Wave unit, and in only 3 weeks, our basement is dry and the musty smell is gone.
Wave units require no maintenance, no buckets of water or filters, and costs only pennies a day to run. Breathe better, live healthier with an affordable, no-maintenance Wave unit. Call 888-717-WAVE, 888-717-WAVE, or visit dryhealthyhome.com. Dryhealthyhome.com.
Ride the wave. Wave Home Solutions for a healthy, comfortable home.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and I only drink Fade to Black blend coffee from River Moon. Just click on the River Moon Coffee banner at jimmychurchradio.com. Promo code F2B Blend.
So are you tired of being tired? Well, then it's time to get the tea. Hey, it's Lisa here to tell you about this all-natural, all-organic tea I've been drinking that has had great results for over 20 years. It's called Life Change Tea, and it's specially formulated to help detoxify and cleanse your kidneys, liver, colon, and blood all at once. The colon is one of the most ignored organs in the human body. The faster that waste is eliminated from the body, the less time that waste sits in our intestines, spreading toxins to our bloodstream. This tea helps cleanse chemicals caused by outside intruders from our entire digestive system. And get this, weight loss can be a side effect. And with continued use of the tea, you can experience clearer, healthier, younger looking skin, increased energy, and a happier outlook on life. So if you're tired of being tired, get the Life Change Tea at getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. And like me, you'll be glad you did.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi available, you can still listen to every minute of Fade to Black by just calling 605-562-4482. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan and no extra cost if you have unlimited minutes. Just call 605-562-4482. You can listen to me, Jimmy Church, on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Go Beckley Tappy.
You want to know a secret? I love ponies. I really love ponies. I'm serious. I couldn't stay sane without ponies to brush.
Why Fade to Black? Because you never got that pony, damn it.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
Welcome back. Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Our guest tonight is Dr. Heather Lynn, and of course, we are talking about her book, Evil Archaeology. And in the book, there are literally hundreds and hundreds of references and different digs and things that have happened throughout history, and it is really well written and very comprehensive. But there is one case, Heather, that I want to talk about now, and that's the frozen Inca mummies. And this is one of, I'm a parent, okay, and that, okay, when we say frozen Inca mummies, okay, that's one, but I'm a parent, and reading about what was uncovered is just chilling, and it's a hair-raising archaeological find, and I can't imagine as an archaeologist doing this and you have to figure out the history of what is going on. So let's talk about that for a second. What was the original find that was up there?
Well, in 96, at the top of a volcano in southwest Peru, they found the body of a 15-year-old girl, and she'd apparently frozen to death after she was left as a sacrifice to the gods. So 3 years after that, archaeologists discovered 3 more frozen children who were also sacrificed. It was 2 girls and 1 boy, about 8 to 14 years old. And so these were Inca children. And what they found, and these are very great specimens. They're just amazing to see. I mean, it's very sad, very, very horrific, but also very fascinating. What you can see from them is that they had been fattened, adorned, and then given hallucinogenic drugs before the priests left them on the summit of this mountain and volcano, rather, to just die. And so archaeologists from all over were wanting to study these children because they are the most well-preserved mummies ever found, some of them at least. I mean, they look, I didn't include a picture in the book, partly out of respect, because it is a contentious subject. A lot of people are very upset that they're even on display in a museum, because these are not your typical remains. These are children. They look like children still. They're so, I mean, you can Google, and if anyone's interested, and definitely find frozen Inca mummies, and you'll be able to find this pretty easily, and you'll be able to see that these well-preserved mummies, they're just, it's chilling. And that's a terrible pun. I shouldn't have probably used that, but yeah, yes, it does make you look at it, and it really hits home that, wow, these were children. So it's easy to say mummies, and you think of mummies, curses, and archaeology and whatnot. But then when you see these children and how they just they died, they froze to death, and they went a terrible way as well. I mean, but having to be force fed and drugged and all these different things, they went through some trauma before dying, and a horrific death. But their bodily fluids even were, and their organs, everything was still there. So it was, because it was so well preserved, the organs and whatnot, the researchers were able to do a complete analysis on this to find all sorts of information, like their eating habits, illnesses, and all sorts of things. So in one case, yeah, this would be a terrible discovery to make. And on one hand, it'd be fascinating, but the other, it would just be quite disturbing, because since they were so well intact and frozen, one of the children's hearts was still filled with blood, frozen blood, and they looked like they had just simply fallen asleep. And in these mummies, they were roughly 500 years old. Right. And so what they were looking at were children from 500 years ago with blood still in their hearts. And so, so for anyone who wants to Google it, out of curiosity, the researchers refer to the children as Lightning Girl, and the boy, they just call the boy. But the girl, She was called Lightning Girl because her body had been burned after being struck by lightning after her death. I mean, to add insult to injury, no, for sure. But she was 6 years old at the time of her death. Her skull was elongated, and they had put her in a nice dress and wrapped her in a yellow and red blanket. And so it indicated that she was very well valued, that this wasn't somebody that they thought, we'll just send a criminal up there. We're punishing these children. They fed them well. They put them in nice clothing. They adorned them. These were the best of the best. And so, nothing but the best as an offering, of course, for the gods. So, they took the boy who was 7 years old at the time of his death, and the boy didn't seem to go so willingly. The researchers determined that it looked like he had had more of a traumatic death. He had vomit and blood on his clothing, and so he also had some dislocated bones, and so it looks like he may have been restrained and maybe fighting on his way. So, and his skull was slightly elongated as well, and he wore a tunic and some silver jewelry, and he was also wrapped in a blanket. But due to the way he was restrained, it was believed that he may have been suffocated after fighting off the eventual fate. So,
how do you, as an archaeologist, when you go through something like this, how do you prevent emotional trauma? I mean, you've got to take this stuff home. You have to think about this. Not only that, you have to write up the report. You've got to take pictures. You have to archive, catalog. You have to bag and tag. You have to do all of these things. How do you keep your mind straight?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. I think that's something that most people in any of these sorts of professions, even just the medical field or, policing, there's so many things that would leave you to have to deal with trauma this way. And perhaps there comes with that in practice some sort of professional, distance. But I don't really think so, because these aren't things that you'd typically find. So I think you could spend a lot of your time as an archaeologist researching and finding, bits of pottery and whatnot, and then maybe find something like this and maybe be totally unprepared for it.
Yeah, you brought
emotionally.
I know you brought this up a few times tonight. We all picture digs, right, with the pottery shards, right? I mean, it seems like that's all it's about. And it's clearly not. And one of the things that you pointed out in this book, and I love learning something new, but the bog mummies. Now, just like the frozen Inca mummies, I've never heard of a bog mummy. And the ability for a bog and peat moss and the nature of the soil to perfectly preserve bodies. And they are found all the time, aren't they?
Yes, actually, they're very well preserved because of as you said, the peat and these sorts of things. And so, that's a really interesting one that people were sort of confused about for a little while, and then they ended up finding out that, or at least assuming that this had to do with some sacred pagan rituals, and then some maybe were just accidents. People fell
slip
or
and
whatever,
fall, right? Yeah.
But in Europe, a lot of the ones that they have found, they believe are victims of human sacrifice, and so but the peat, it's you get this sometimes. It's amazing where sort of like the La Brea tar pits, there's these like areas, these certain ways that the globe can just preserve something, and then this is one of those cases where, because of the acidity in the peat, it just perfectly preserves these bodies, so much so that you can see their hair and all these details, and so we're talking like very old. But in 1897, there were workers out illegally burning peat, and then they discovered a body in the peat bog near their village. This was in the Netherlands, but it scared them. They thought they maybe unearthed a devil. They didn't know what they found, but they were very superstitious and whatnot. But what they really found was a teenage girl who had been in the bog. And now get this: she looked like a girl, but she was there for 2,000 years.
2,000 years.
2,000 years.
Fully clothed.
Fully clothed. She had a half-shaved head and a rope around her neck.
Now, see, this is the thing. Okay, let's actually, this is part of archaeology right here. Now you get to write the story, right? Where you have a body, it's clothed, then you find out it's 2,000 years old. She's got a rope around her neck. Her hair is, that situation where she's half shaved. Now they start to take a look at this, and they figure out, they get to play NCIS, right? Crime scene investigation. What happened to her?
Well, what's interesting is that the mayor actually, since this was so long ago, and the news started spreading in this village, and so the mayor had to come by and report the discovery to the museum and sort of act as the intermediary. And so we have a primary source document that shows what he described exactly. And so the body he described as having blue skin and damage to the right cheek. The mouth was open, and there were still teeth, and the girl had long reddish hair. But then again, the right side of the skull was clean shaved. So it was really strange. And, they had this, they really didn't, I don't think they really did anything with it from that point. But then later, archaeologists started discovering that other parts of her body and clothing were being dug up by the villagers. Her teeth had been stolen. Her hair was pulled loose. So it was like they were robbing her grave at one point, but there was nothing from her grave. It was just they were taking pieces of her all throughout time. And so what they determined, based on just sort of this activity, and again, this is where archaeology gets a little, I don't want to say less than scientific, but it is a soft science. And this is something I think is really important to point out, because so often archaeologists like to point to their discipline as being a science. And while there are scientific tools used and there is a scientific methodology employed, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's all quantifiable. You still have to take a lot of guesses, even if they're educated guesses, and you have to do qualitative analysis and do a lot of inferring. And so which I don't think is necessarily a bad thing, but it's just an important thing to keep in mind when you hear archaeologists sometimes go and say, no, this is definitely what this is, but no, when you're talking about the past, unless you were there, you really definitely can't say much, so at this point, the story that they put together was that she was 16 years old when she died, and she had a spine abnormality that maybe caused her to limp. And so what they figured was that and they could tell that it wasn't that she had a broken spine that was done. It was definitely from birth that she had this spinal, issue. So what they believe is that because she might have limped or been just sort of having a crooked stature, it made her different. And her community didn't like her because of that, and chased her off and abused her and ended up killing her. And so that's sort of the idea. Now, of course, we have no real way of proving that, but that's sort of the narrative that they put together. But in the 90s, University of Manchester had a forensic artist reconstruct the girl's face. And it's amazing because it really brings life to this. I mean, the body was really well preserved, but again, her face had been sort of abused, and she had been treated poorly, and then the people looted her and took her teeth and did some things after the fact. So there is a reconstruction out there that it's quite amazing, and it really gives a literal face to this girl of 2,000 years ago that was tortured to death, literally, because she was different.
Yeah, she was different, and the bog, of all things, preserved her for us today, and including, key things like her clothes, but, of course, the rope that was found around her neck. And if it wasn't for the bog, we wouldn't have had this, and she wouldn't have been able to tell her story.
Absolutely, because, a rope being organic material like that, it would have not really lasted. I mean, the bog preserved it so that she was able to tell her story 2,000 years later.
Now, and speaking, and as we start to close tonight, there is another question that just needs to be addressed. When a skull is revealed to have a hole in it, I think a normal assumption for us that are not archaeologists is that it's an arrow, right? It's that it was a murder. It was maybe even battle. something like that happened, but it could have been a demonic possession and an exorcism. As an archaeologist, how do you figure that out? Because isn't a hole a hole?
Yes, a hole's a hole, but you can look at it and determine how the hole got there based on, one way you can see is if it was perforated around the edge. So in order to purposefully drill a hole, so surgically drill a hole, in very ancient times, it would be, you would make little perforations around that and then push that skull piece in. And you'd have a little skull disc. So that would leave, and you'd remove that skull disc, but then that would leave a particular outline around it. And so there's a lot of different ways you'd look at the skull to determine if it was a blunt force or if it was drilling, that which happened frequently for that sort of thing. So, there's a lot of ways. So I mentioned in the book one way that they did it. I sort of start this part of the book with what seems to be a fictionalized account or retelling of an actual trepanning or early prehistoric exorcism. But it's because nobody could be there to record it, of course, it's speculative, but I base it on all of the evidence that is available on how they would have done this and what evidence we have. And one of the things is that they would have taken an antler or something to that effect and whittled it to a point, and then they would have just perforated around the head and then started rubbing that in their palm as though sort of they were going to start a fire or something. So if you could imagine how awful that would be if you were a patient suffering from maybe epilepsy or some disease that maybe they were thinking was a form of possession or something like that. To add insult again to your injury, you would have a shaman standing over you, drilling a hole in your head with a whittled down antler, which would take quite a while to do. And after a while, the shaman would, he'd be very good at it after a while, so it wouldn't be as bad as maybe if I would do it, but still, it'd be a horrific experience. And then once they had that skull disc popped out, they would have to clean that off. And then how they would do that, they would urinate in the hole. And then they would need to pack that hole because they wouldn't put the skull disc back in. That would be a trophy for later. Plus, you wanted to keep the injury open because, that's how you maybe let the demons get out. Or you help with the intracranial pressure. So you would pack that hole with a reindeer fat or whatever animal fat you may have, and then basically hope for the best.
Now, when The Exorcist, the movie, was number one, and then, of course, later on with The Omen, but The Exorcist, and you and I in this country went through front page demonic possession stories on every newspaper across this country, right? It was everywhere. Everybody was possessed. It doesn't seem that way today. Have we moved on from evil? Are we past demonic possession? Are we understanding that? Is it not religious? Is it something else and another medical issue? I mean, it's great fodder for Hollywood. Those movies will always be made, and they still are. But do you understand what I'm asking?
Yeah. You know what? I was curious about this as well. And so I interviewed an exorcist for the book, and he's an actual working modern-day exorcist. And he had said that he's actually seen an increase in his business, a lot of people needing exorcisms. And I interviewed him for the book. His name is Bill Bean. But I'd also talked to exorcists before that I didn't include necessarily in the book. And they all said similar things, that there's actually an increase in people looking for exorcisms, which I thought was a little bit strange. I think it's just maybe the way they're being conducted is different. I put in the book my own eyewitness account of a modern day exorcism that, as a recovering Catholic or former Catholic, I think of exorcism as the exorcist and a priest and some holy water and all this. And so when I saw my own exorcism, it was nothing like that. It was very strange and very different. And so I think what we have is maybe just a different look of it, something like that. But In fact, there are psychiatrists and psychologists that are starting to incorporate exorcism in their practice. Some of them, even if they're not religious, they sort of believe that perhaps there's a placebo effect or, something like that. So maybe it could do some good. So I think we're just seeing it evolve and change and maybe sort of look a little different than how popular culture put it out to us to begin with the whole, Catholic priest archetype and this. But I think it's very much a relevant thing. In fact, I know in the third world they're still doing it and, doing a lot of it. And it's quite sad, really. People who have absolute medical disorders, epilepsy is usually the most common one cited. They're being treated by being given exorcisms, and sometimes they die as a result. Because these are it's not like somebody standing over you saying, "Begone, demon," and the power of Christ compels you, or something like that. It's right. They get physically restrained. They go through starvation. They go through a lot of traumatic things and can actually die. So
that's right. Hold on for a second. You reference that's right. That's what it was. May we no longer fear any evil.
Yeah.
Which is how do you write it here? It comes from the last few lines of the Catholic rite of exorcism. So may we no longer fear evil? I think that we do. I think that we will always. I think that even with science, see, this is what's interesting is that you have science and it sort of lulls you into the sense of that we have a grip on it. Right. That we know. I think we suffer from hubris after a while because we know, the unknowable at times, it seems. And then there's these anomalous things that happen that we can't explain, whether it be an encounter, whether it's something we call evil, whether it's just anything just out of the ordinary. These are things that, that science maybe doesn't explain very well, or at least not to our satisfaction. And so I think it leaves the possibility open. And again, as circling back to what we were talking about in the beginning, whenever that happens, there's a vacuum that's left, and that vacuum seeks to be filled. And so in an effort to fill that, I think we will sometimes just call something evil or demon or whatnot. But I think that we're always going to have a fear, even if we think we know. I think that there's always going to be things that we can't truly know. And fear, it's the fear of the unknown. A lot of people can't handle that idea just the idea that they don't know something. It's very threatening to them. I'm quite comfortable with that. I actually enjoy it. I don't want to know everything. I take that back. I want to know everything, but I'm glad that I can't know everything because it keeps me going. That's right.
But some people are afraid of that. They want to feel secure that they know every single thing. And instead of sitting with that, just saying, I can't know everything. Some things are unknowable. I think that's what makes people afraid.
The book is excellent. And where can everybody go and find it?
It is everywhere right now. It's on Amazon, Kindle. It is there's an audiobook version, which is quite nice. And there is it's in Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, anywhere books are sold. You can find it everywhere now.
Thank you so much, Heather. Great conversation tonight, and I look forward to your next book. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. Have a great night, and thank you to the Fader Knots.
See? Right there, Dr. Heather Lynn. Thank you so much, Heather. Have a great night.
You too.
She said fade or not. That's what I'm talking about. I'm going to take a break right here. The book is Evil Archaeology. The links are over at jimmychurchradio.com. And, of course, we've got them up there on Twitter. It's a fantastic read. Thank you so much, Heather. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. And I'll be right back after this short break.
You are listening to my boy, Jimmy Church, on jimmychurchradio.com.
Despite popular opinion, reading a book will not make you smarter.
But listening to Jimmy Church will.
hurricanes, earthquakes, wildfires. This year we've experienced more than our fair share. This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and last month I decided to make sure my family does not have to worry about food should we get caught in a real emergency situation. Introducing Numana, a healthy, storable product that tastes so good that you'll want to eat it every day instead of just during those times of duress. All Numana products have a 25-year shelf life, are MSG and GMO-free, no preservatives, and are made in America. With the Numana pack in your home, you'll be able to sleep at night knowing that you've protected your family. Not only have I tasted and tested, I own it. Now you can too. Just click on the Numana banner on JimmyChurchRadio.com and use the promo code Jimmy when you order. In addition to a discount, we'll send you an autographed Fade to Black t-shirt. Seriously, go Beckley Teppy. This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and I take Life Change Tea supplements every single day. It's what I do. Click on their banner at JimmyChurchRadio.com. When you take the beans from Central America with dashes of Indonesian and African mixed in and then roasted to the dark side of Fade to Black, you create the ultimate brew of fringe. Introducing the Fade to Black blend from River Moon Coffee. Yes, River Moon's darkest customized roast was created for the love of Fade to Black. The alchemy of masterful roasting and smoking the beans is in every sip of this full-bodied, dark Java. I need my coffee dark, deep, with distinct bittersweet chocolate highlights, just like the bunker. Leaning further into the darkness of the roast is Fade to Black blend from River Moon Coffee. Just click on the banner at JimmyChurchRadio.com and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today. Go Beckley Teppy.
Hi folks, CBD is the home run hitter for health right now. Why, you ask? Because of what it does for the body. Unfortunately, I can't tell you all about the benefit. You know, there's reasons. Do your due diligence and log on to AncientLifeOil.com. That's AncientLifeOil.com. Ancient Life Oil uses organic ingredients and is blended in coconut oil for some of the best benefits. Legal in 50 states and non-psychoactive. Log on to AncientLifeOil.com. That's AncientLifeOil.com.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and my family is safe because of Numana Emergency Food Storage. Just go to the Numana banner at JimmyChurchRadio.com. Promo code Jimmy10.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
This is Kristen, Erica, Brittany, Gabby, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
It's not a lifestyle we chose. We were born this way. KGRARadio.com.
This is KJCR at JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Welcome back. Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Opening up the phone lines. 747-228-2051. 747-228-2051. And I want to thank Dr. Heather Lynn for an amazing conversation tonight. And I got to tell you, just like what this book did to me, that's what that conversation tonight, I mean, that's what archaeologists are going through all the time, and bringing up things like, you know, just things. A hole in the head. Well, how did it get there? What's going on with that? Or the bog mummies, the Inca mummies, or the Herzheim in Germany. That's an entire village that was only around for 50 years, and they find 500 bodies that apparently were eaten and cooked. That's woof-fa, and going back to ancient Sumer and, of course, what was going on in Egypt, I didn't even get to this is, I've mentioned this before, but think about this for a second. You live in England. Think about how many medieval battles that went on all across that country, where thousands of soldiers died. Right? That's think about that. Right? And as an archaeologist, and you go and you're digging into a battlefield, what you are going to find there, and that's something I don't know as far as the trauma goes. As an archaeologist, what you go through there is absolutely unbelievable to me. I don't know. Talk about PTSD, right? Okay, I'm putting you on hold. It's going to go silent, and I'm going to go here first. And here we go. Hi, you're live on Fade to Black. Who's calling?
Hi. This is Stephen Padilla from Pahrump, Nevada. I want to thank you for acknowledging me on Facebook. I post your show every day.
Thank you, Stephen. How are you?
Not too bad. Not too bad. I am a UFO buff. I've been following UFOs 50 years. I've been collecting UFO footage and video for 25 years. But I really enjoy your show. What I'm so impressed and awesome is that you ask questions where your listeners would be asking. Separate you from the rest. Put you right there with George Newey and Larry King. You're the best.
Well, thank you for that, Stephen. And I do notice, I do see you posting, and I really appreciate that. So from all of us here at Faded Black, I want to thank you. And you're right there, man. You're in Nye County, man. You're in Pahrump.
Right. And I had an awesome sighting here with some orbs flying over the mountain, and they disappeared. It looked like they were doing surveillance. About 5 or 6 orbs, and they were like transparent, where they weren't bright. You could kind of like see through them. And I've been collecting UFO footage for 25 years, and all the footage and most of the footage that we're getting now are orbs. And the way I see them come over the mountain on the valley and just sit there, it looked like they were doing surveillance. And I think, personally, that these orbs are intelligent. I think these are the aliens themselves that could transport themselves into light and travel, because it's just amazing. That's what I saw, and what the footage that people are capturing now. And there's intelligence behind these orbs. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I've noticed the same trend. And we've gone through, Stephen, as you know, you've been doing this for a while. That I
think we lost connection. Hello?
No, I've got you. Stephen. Maybe it's Pahrump.
Hello?
Okay, Stephen has lost us, but I haven't lost. I haven't lost Stephen. Is Pahrump, Nevada, and that part of the world? Once you're out there, it's west and southwest of Las Vegas. Things have been going on out there for a while, but we've gone through these phases. We went through flying saucers, and then cigar-shaped craft, and of course the black triangles. And the last 10 years or so, it's been all about these orbs, which I have seen myself, and I don't know how to explain what's going on with that, but I've seen it over and over again. Low, I've seen it close to the earth. Of course, there's the famous green chrome balls, and then up high in the atmosphere. I don't know. I don't know what's going on with it. Hi, you're live on Fade to Black. Who's calling?
Hey, Jimmy. My name is Josh.
Hey, Josh. How are you? Where are you calling from?
From California.
How are you, man?
Good. I'm great. How are you?
What's on your mind?
Well, a couple things. First, I wanted to address the recent guest you had on the program and some of the things that were being discussed in the area of demonology.
Right.
This is something I've recently delved into quite deeply after studying from different directions throughout my life. I'm sorry. And I would tend to, I think I could add something to that and maybe straighten some things out. Back in the ancient times, the people didn't, I don't think they really believed in demons the way that most people think of demons today. They considered the diseases and the infections of the soul and the mind. They considered these daemons, very, which where we get the word from, but they weren't exactly the way we imagine them and envision them today as these dark forces. They were the sicknesses, the various sicknesses. And a lot of times they felt that the disease, the mind and the way that we thought and, eating impure, thinking impure, and living impure were the things that allowed the body to be inhabited by these types of, negative thoughts or, really the things that we would attribute it to these things. So they felt that the different plants and the different remedies that were available in the plant kingdom were the different remedies for battling these, and these were also demons. These were good demons, and they fought the bad demons. And so when they're talking about exorcism, a lot of the times what they're talking about is exorcising the illnesses from the body and taking the illnesses and removing the illnesses from the body. And that's what the shaman or the magician or the priest, the early version of the priest, was doing.
Well, it could have been, okay. This is what I think, and I'm no expert here, but I would venture to guess, let's push back, let's go beyond 200 years, okay, before modern medicine started to kick in, and certainly the last 100 years with antibiotics, okay? But if you go back 200, 300, 400, 500, 1,000 years ago where there was an infection in the body or plague or anything like that where the only diagnosis was possession, that it was demonic, when they didn't know that it was an infected tooth, right? or something else that had taken over somebody's body that eventually led to hallucinations and brain trauma. That's where I've always naturally kind of gone with my own mind in that, where it was just the church would not allow any type of medical diagnosis to come into play, that it was always demonic.
Well, it's interesting that I think that a lot of people think in similar ways to what you've just professed when you just said that. I think it's a common belief and an understanding among people that the church, that when you don't really have a very good, solid understanding of ancient history, we all, and I did this for many years, we all tend to fill the blanks in with our imagination and the way we imagine it must have been, or the way that we imagine it was based on what we know.
Absolutely.
But I think the truth is that actually before the church and up until the church time, the ancient people had an extremely advanced awareness of medicine and the mind. And they did that through the use of psychedelics, mostly the mushroom. And this was something that they explored very, very intensely, and it itself was considered a very healing thing. So it was not just healing for the body to cure diseases and things like that, but it was extremely healing for the mind and the soul, which was really what they felt got to the root of a lot of the illnesses. So when the Catholic Church came around, what they did was they basically eliminated and demonized the mushroom. And by demonizing the mushroom, which was one of the things that they would give people to cure things, they could, a lot of things could result, a lot of ideas could result from that. And the church, when they took over, got rid of a lot of these curing and healing things and tried to say that all of this had to come through the church and through the priests in the church, but which was really just a continuation of the shaman priest from before. And Rome, these priests and the controllers of the Catholic Church were no dummies at the time. They were extremely knowledgeable, but what they wanted to do is propel humanity into the darkness and keep us away from the knowledge of the healing abilities of the plants.
Well, that's how because they had to control.
Right.
That's really the bottom line here. And right. Josh, I really appreciate the phone call, man. Very, very insightful. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Man, have a great night. And see, the other part of that is when you think about the Catholic Church back then, or any religious organization that was dominant in that particular culture, is that you, especially as a doctor, somebody that called themselves a doctor, or was trying to figure that stuff out, you weren't going to overrule the church, not in your town. It just wasn't going to happen. If you wanted to say, hey, you know what, I think there's a fever here. I think there's something else going on. I think there's something happening here. I don't think it's demonic. You're not going to overrule the church. You're not going to be able to go in and try some cure. It ain't going to happen. And there's just no way. There's no way that was going to happen. Hi, you're live on Fade to Black. Who's calling?
Hey, Jimmy?
Yes.
I'm calling from the Caribbean. I'm French.
You're French, calling from the Caribbean. How are you? What's your name?
Yes. My name is Lionel.
Lionel.
I'm calling from Guadeloupe.
Oh, right on, man. How are you?
Guadeloupe. I'm doing fine. It's my first time calling, and I'm not even... it's hard for me to speak English, but I really wanted to call you to thank you for your show, the quality of your work, to say hi to everybody.
Thank you so much for that, man, and I really appreciate the phone call. And since you've taken the time to call in, what did you think of the show tonight?
I listened really carefully, and it was a really interesting subject, and it's. I'm sorry, I'm losing words, but I really like this subject. It's dark, and it's like watching a horror movie.
Yes, I know, right? I totally agree. There were a couple of times tonight, Lionel, where I was just like, oh, wow. But we need to discuss these things.
Yes, and those 500 bodies, whoa.
I know.
That's huge.
I know. You should get the book and read the full story. It's absolutely amazing. Well, listen, Lionel, thank you. I know you're a first-time caller, but call back anytime, okay?
Yes. Okay, just thank you for your show. You seem to be a really good guy, and I watch your show almost every night.
Thank you so much, and spread the word in the Caribbean, will you?
Okay, I try.
Thank you, Lionel. Have a great night, man.
Thank you.
Yes,
you too. Bye.
The Caribbean calling in to Fade to Black. You gotta love that right there. Let's stay on the phones. He's right, though. The 500 bodies in her time. I'm telling you, you guys got to get this book. And there are literally hundreds and hundreds of references of different archaeological digs around the world about this subject. It's absolutely incredible. Hi, you're live on Fade to Black. Who's calling?
Hey, Jimmy, this is Joey.
Hey, Joey. How are you?
Man, I'm doing all right, except I got a crick in my neck. I feel like a You ever get this burning sensation across your chest like somebody's got a voodoo doll?
Yeah, I get it. I get it every day.
What about right now?
Yeah, right now.
It's a joke, man.
Yeah,
anyway,
no, somebody out there is poking pins into a voodoo doll, and the voodoo doll's got a goatee. I guarantee it. I guarantee
it's not me, buddy.
Yeah, I guarantee
it. Buddy. Hey, listen, I wanted to tell you, I noticed earlier today in the news that, they changed Columbus Day to Indigenous Peoples Day or whatever,
Well, they've been trying to.
Well, they did it in like Arizona, something like that. I don't know, some state or some mayor just redid it or whatever. But so I said, well, who was here before the Native Americans? And you started talking about this with this lady about this missing history and stuff. And one of your listeners or somebody in your Twitter feed, you got to check it out because she put up an article about these the giant skulls or whatever that were found in Missouri. I think they were hundreds of feet deep underground or something. I don't know. I didn't read the whole thing, but it was intriguing, and it was odd that it just all kind of, lined up like that. But anyhow, where's the missing history of America? Who was here before the indigenous people? Where's the proof? Where's the? Life didn't start in America or North America, did it?
Well, see, look, Joey, when this subject comes up, it is one of the most heated arguments, and if we listen to what historians are trying to tell us, anthropologists and who have chased back DNA and traced it, that everything the Inuits and going up through Alaska and the Bering Strait and the land bridge that went over to Siberia, that apparently were Russians. Right? Apparently, that is the case. And now, if we go back further, so that supposedly happened around 15,000 years ago. Okay, all right, okay. I can buy into some of that, but then we just had the recent discoveries in San Diego. And you can go and check this out. The press releases came out about a year ago of Homo sapien sapien 150,000 years ago killing mammoths in San Diego. And apparently the bones of the mammoths had strike marks from flint knives. Okay, so there you go. So now that tips over completely the original and accepted, largely accepted, way that the original Americans got here were from the Bering Strait land bridge, but apparently it predated that by another 150,000 years. So I don't know, and I have no clue. The other part to all of this, when we talk about, where man came from, and everything points to Central and South Africa and Lucy, and going back in Australopithecus and Homo erectus, that would indicate a migration from Southern and Central Africa going north. But the other parts to all of this now is indicating northern Siberia and heading south into Mesopotamia, because that is where, if you look at Göbekli Tepe, today, Göbekli Tepe is 12,000 years old. Now, Göbekli Tepe apparently was built from migration that came from the north down to the south. You would think that it was from Egypt and ancient Sumer and Mesopotamia going north, but there's a 7,000-year gap between Göbekli Tepe and what was going on in ancient Sumer and ancient Egypt. So it contradicts themselves, right? So now where do we go with that? I don't know. And how would Central and Southern African civilizations migrate all the way up to Siberia and then come around to the south again. Again, I guess anything is possible, but the way that they are chasing this DNA back, we've got two separate things that are happening here. One in southern Africa and Central Africa, and one up in northern Siberia.
Wow. I mean, unless they find that, like you were saying earlier, like the earth-shattering evidence of something, you know, to kind of tell us the whole story, the whole history, or just even just one sliver of it, you know, could, like you said, it's an arrow, you know, points in the right direction.
Well, that's what, you know, see, that's what I want to have happen. I would have thought, Joey, and I'm being very serious when I say this, I would have thought that Göbekli Tepe, which clearly was not supposed to exist, okay? It was not supposed to exist, and it's there, and it's 12,000 years old, that would cause all history to be rewritten. They didn't do it. In fact, they don't even talk about it. Don't you think that Göbekli Tepe should have been, in 1995, the headline news on every single broadcast on this planet, including the Vatican? Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
You didn't hear about it until Fade to Black, until this show. You know, there were, and not to say that we broke the news, we didn't. You know, there were plenty of, you know, Linda Moulton Howe was out there, and John Anthony West was out there, and Graham Hancock and Robert Schock. They were all out there checking it out, but nobody would listen to all of us, you know, fringe researchers, you know, fringe radio shows and ancient aliens. No, we don't count. But that is how big of a story Göbekli Tepe is. Now, this is back to my point. Yeah. If we find another Göbekli Tepe, right, it's some kind of proof of Atlantis or Lemuria and some breaking situation where now it's not even 12,000 years old, but maybe it's 50,000 years old. Are we going to hear about it? Probably not.
Cave paintings? Didn't they have recently discovered cave paintings that were like 45,000 years old?
Yeah, and
is that real? Was that real news?
Lacroix, France. Well, they found them in Spain, they found them in France, they found them in Italy, and they found them in Australia. All of them dating between 20,000 and 45,000 years ago. And some of them are the most elaborate 3D fine art. You know, look, you and I, when we were 5 years old, drawing stick figures, right, of our family and our dog, right? Okay, that's not what's on these walls. We are talking about a beautiful, beautiful artwork. So
I've seen the Herzog. What's his name?
Werner Herzog.
That's the first one.
Yeah, that's in Lacroix, France, and that documentary. I love Werner Herzog. He's the best. That documentary's that documentary's one of the best documentaries about ancient civilizations. Period. That's ever been done. And it took him to make it. But we weren't supposed to have that kind of sophistication. We weren't supposed to think about art. We weren't, we weren't supposed to be able to do that. But obviously we did, right? So, yeah, it did. Was that the game changer that rewrote history? Nobody wants to take a chance and write history like that. I don't get it. I don't. Joey, Göbekli Tepe is just like those cave paintings. Göbekli Tepe is probably the most important historical site on planet Earth. More important than Giza, more important than the Great Sphinx, and I'm not discounting any of that. But we've clearly dated it, carbon dated it to 11,000 and older. There's a possibility that some of the site is even another 5,000 years older than what we've already got now. Well,
wait, we've only discovered like a tenth of it, right?
That's right. That's right. 20%.
It's huge.
Yes, it's
huge. The place is huge.
It's huge. It's huge.
I mean, it's unbelievable. Huge, Gary. Huge.
We just found the newest stuff. Well, Joey, I got to rock on out of here, man. We'll see you tomorrow night. Thank you for the phone call.
All right. Thanks, sir. All right. Bye-bye.
Great phone call right there. Great night on the show. Unbelievable. I want to thank everybody that called tonight and everybody that tweeted. And, of course, Dr. Heather Lynn. The book is Evil Archaeology, drheatherlynn.com, and you can also find it on Amazon. Fade to Black's executive producer is Rita Camarion. Show is produced by Hilton J. Palm, Renee, Dennis, and Bob. Announcers are Steve Harder, Gene Vitoa, Mark D. Kovar. Webmaster is Drew the Geek. Music, Doug Aldrich. Intro, Spaceboy. SpaceboyMusic.com. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Game Changer Network, and syndication is KGRA, The Planet. This broadcast is owned and copyrighted 2019 by Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network. It cannot be rebroadcast, downloaded, copied, or used anywhere in the known universe without written permission from Fade to Black or the Game Changer Network. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tomorrow night is Fader Night. Open lines all night long. Follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. I'll see everybody tomorrow, but until then, be safe. Go Beckley Teppy.